Chapter 2660. Seeing that he couldn't avoid it, Tang Kong said, "Sir Araki Takeshi, please wait for a moment. I'll go over there and make arrangements." Wu Dao's main body nodded. Tang Kong went to the side and gathered the Tang family members. He divided them into several groups and dispersed, leaving North Ridge as soon as possible. He knew that he would most likely not be able to return from this trip to Central Capital, so he could only try his best to preserve the bloodline of his family. "Father, where are you going?" Tang Qing asked. Tang Kong sighed inwardly and didn't hide it. "Sir Araki Takeshi wants to go to Central Capital and needs someone to lead the way. I can only accompany him." "I'll go too." Tang Qing's eyes lit up. "Nonsense, what are you going to do?" Tang Kong glared at Tang Qing. Tang Qing glanced at Wu Dao's main body and said, "I've been cultivating in Central Capital all year round, so I know more about it. I can definitely help if I go." Tang Kong frowned. "Sir Araki Takeshi wants to go to Central Capital and use the teleportation array to leave Cold Spring Prison. The teleportation array is in the Imperial Palace of Cold Spring City. Who knows how many powerhouses are guarding it? What can you do to help?" Tang Qing said, "I've been to the Imperial Palace of Central Capital several times, so I have some impression of the terrain. If we use the teleportation array of Cold Spring Prison, we can't force our way in. We have to plan carefully and find the right time." Tang Kong pondered for a moment and said, "All right, you can come too." Tang Kong brought Tang Qing to Wu Dao's main body and explained, "Qing is more familiar with Central Capital. With her, it'll be more convenient for us to do things." Wu Dao's main body didn't care at all. It didn't matter whether Tang Qing was there or not. In fact, his origin martial Grotto Heaven had just devoured too much Grotto Heaven energy and needed a relatively long time to digest it. But as Tang Kong said, the news of the battle in North Ridge would soon spread to Central Capital. At that time, Cold Spring Prison Overlord would lead the army of hell here. He wouldn't have much time to cultivate in seclusion. Instead of waiting for Cold Spring Hell Master to arrive, it was better for Yang Kai to take the initiative to go to the Central Capital and resolve this matter once and for all. Wu Dao's true body might not be able to defeat Cold Spring Hell Overlord with its current battle strength. However, he had the prison-suppressing cauldron, the underworld mirror, and the soul lamp. Any one of them would be enough to turn the tables. Wu Dao's true body casually tore open the void and took Tang Kong and Tang Qing into the spatial tunnel, disappearing from the sky above the Northridge ruins. Seeing the three of them leave, the rest of the Tang family followed clan leader Tang Kong's orders and split into several groups, quickly leaving the Northern Ridge. In North Ridge City, when the numerous hell creatures saw this scene, they were stunned on the spot for a moment. They still maintained their kneeling posture, unable to react. "Leaving just like that? Where is the new king of the Northridge going? Do you even need to think about it? He must have fled the northern mountain range and found a place to hide." "That's right. News of today's battle will soon spread to the Central Capital. He won't be able to keep his position as the king of the Northridge and will be mercilessly killed by Cold Spring Hell Overlord. Yeah, the Northridge Tang family members have also fled. They must be looking for a place to take refuge." Hearing the discussions around them, the numerous hell creatures also understood and stood up. Thousands of hell kings stood up with complicated expressions on their faces. Although they had survived, their vitality was greatly damaged. Some of the hell kings even had their grotto heavens completely devoured by Wu Dao's true body. Their hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation were all taken away. However, compared to Ming Feng and the other hell overlords, they were still considered lucky. At least they managed to survive. "Let's disperse." A hell king sighed and said, "There will probably be underworld king experts from the Central Capital in the next 2 days to take over the Northern Ridge. As for whether that purple-robed man and the Northridge Tang family can survive, it will depend on their luck." The thousands of hell kings left and returned to their respective territories. They went into seclusion to recuperate while waiting for news from the Central Capital. In the spatial tunnel, Wu Dao's true body led Tang Kong and his daughter through it. Not long after, Tang Kong's expression changed, and he pointed at a spatial node, saying, "If we go out from here, we will reach the central capital's cold spring city." Without hesitation, Wu Dao's true body led Tang Kong and his daughter through the spatial node and out of the spatial tunnel. The three of them landed not far from Cold Spring City. What entered their line of sight was a huge and majestic ancient city. It was completely white and seemed to be made of ice. It was extremely conspicuous in this dark and gloomy world. The snow-white city walls extended along the horizon. Even with the eyesight of Wu Dao's true body, he could not see the end of the city walls. The entire ancient city was emitting bursts of cold air and white fog. This was the central capital's Cold Spring City. Wu Dao's true body had just seen Northridge City, but compared to this ancient city in front of him, whether it was in terms of grandeur or scale, it was much worse. At this time, Wu Dao's true body tore through the void and suddenly appeared outside Cold Spring Hell. Although there were hell creatures coming and going that noticed them, they were not too surprised. Cold Spring City was the center of the entire Cold Spring Hell. It was not surprising to run into Hell Kings around this ancient city. At the entrance of the ancient city, there were many guards checking the Hell creatures passing by. Tang Qinger said, "Don't worry about Hell Kings. They can fly in the ancient city and don't need to be questioned by the guards." Wu Dao's true body was about to enter the city when Tang Kong suddenly said, "My lord, please wait. Your clothes and appearance are a bit special and easy to recognize. Should we disguise ourselves?" When the news of the Northridge battle spread to the central capital, Wu Dao's true body's purple robe and silver mask would be easily recognized. "No need," Wu Dao's true body said indifferently. Tang Kong sighed in his heart and did not dare to say more. He could only obediently follow behind Wu Dao's true body and enter Cold Spring City. Cold Spring City was huge, but most of the hell creatures were squeezed on the ground. The space in the air was relatively spacious, and there were not many obstacles. Strange. Looking at the people coming and going below, Tang Qing frowned slightly and said, "Cold Spring City is not usually so crowded." Along the way, the three of them met quite a number of Hell Kings in the air. Tang Kong observed for a while and said, "Is there something important in Cold Spring City?" Tang Qing thought for a while and said with a look of realization, "I remember now. Today should be Cold Spring Hell Master's concubine selection ceremony in the Imperial Palace." "What concubine selection ceremony?" Tang Kong asked. Tang Qing explained, "A few years ago, a beautiful woman was born in the ancient Ming race. When Cold Spring Hell Master saw her, he was shocked and immediately decided to abolish the original concubine and make her the new one. Cold Spring Hell Master even used a Dao art to show the woman's image in the sky above Cold Spring City. It did not disappear for 3 days, so that all the creatures in Cold Spring Hell had a chance to see the woman's face." Tang Kong sneered. This action was nothing more than to satisfy Cold Spring Hell Master's vanity and let the people of Cold Spring Hell see how beautiful his concubine was. Chapter 2661. Tang Qinger said, "As far as I know, Cold Spring Hell Overlord is the one who held the concubine ceremony this time around." "Humph," Tang Kong said disapprovingly. "Cold Spring Hell Overlord must have lost his mind. It's just a woman. How beautiful can she be? To think that he would go to such lengths." Hearing that, Tang Qing's expression turned complicated as she fell silent. After a while she said, "This prison concubine's beauty can indeed be said to be devastatingly beautiful, causing people to gasp in admiration. If I were a man, I would probably be mesmerized by her as well. I might even do everything for her." That was too high an evaluation. Tang Kong would have doubted it if it was said by anyone else. However, Tang Qing was his daughter. Furthermore, Tang Qing was a first-rate beauty herself. In this aspect, she would definitely compare herself to others. However, in front of this concubine, Tang Qing would have to admit that she was inferior. Tang Qing continued, "I heard that when this concubine was born from the cold spring of hell, the hundreds of flowers beside the cold spring all closed around her in shame. Is it that exaggerated?" Tang Kong was surprised. He had lived for 800,000 years and was already calm in this aspect. Now that he heard the various legends about this concubine, he was also curious. Tang Qing'er nodded and said, "It is said that Cold Spring Hell Overlord treats her very well, and has pursued her for thousands of years. This concubine has always been unwilling, and Cold Spring Hell Overlord has never overstepped his boundaries. However, for some reason, Cold Spring Hell Overlord suddenly announced that he was going to concubine some time ago. Perhaps this concubine was touched by his sincerity." Tang Qing'er's gaze turned and looked at Wu Dao's true body beside her. Wu Dao's true body did not speak the entire time as he looked into the distance. No one knew what he was thinking, as though he had something else on his mind. When he heard Tang Qing'er and Tang Qing'er's conversation and heard the words concubine, Wu Dao's true body could not help but think of an old friend. This old friend had an unforgettable past with him on Tianhuang mainland. This old friend had even saved his life. It was the Princess Yufei of the Great Qian Empire. Wu Dao's true body naturally knew that the hell concubine Tang Qing'er spoke of was the hell concubine. It was impossible for her to be the same person as Princess Yufei. However, the two of them addressed each other in the same way, and they were both peerless beauties. He couldn't help but think of this old friend and some past events. Princess Yufei had also transcended the tribulation and ascended on Tianhuang mainland back then. Although Wu Dao's main body did not appear, he had been paying attention to the entire process of the tribulation. Fortunately, it was more daunting than dangerous. Over the years, the martial Dao true body had only found Yan Beichen, Ming Zhen, Demonis Ji and Tao Yao among the old friends of Tianhuang mainland who had ascended. There was no news of the others. "Araki Takashi-sama?" Tang Kong whispered from the side. "If we leave now, there's still time. The news of the Northern Ridge battle should not have reached the central capital yet." Tang Kong saw that Wu Dao's original body had been silent all this time. He thought that Wu Dao had seen the foundation of Cold Spring City and felt regret. "Let's go to Cold Spring Palace." Wu Dao's original body temporarily put down some of the past worries in his heart and said, although there hadn't been an Emperor Realm expert in Cold Spring Prison for many years, the Palace of Cold Spring Prison Master still retained the title of an imperial palace. "Still want to go?" Tang Kong felt helpless and complained inwardly. Tang Qing'er's heart skipped a beat and she suddenly said, "Father, Senior Araki Takashi, this concubine consort ceremony might be a rare opportunity for us." Tang Kong's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood. The concubine consort ceremony this time was huge. Any expert with a bit of status and reputation in Cold Spring City would go to Cold Spring Palace to watch the ceremony. The guards of Cold Spring Palace would also focus their attention on the concubine consort ceremony. As such, the power guarding the teleportation array would definitely be lax, which would give them an opportunity to take advantage of. Tang Qing'er continued. However, the teleportation array's location is in the core area of Cold Spring Palace. It won't be too far from the concubine consort ceremony. If we get the chance, we must move quickly and activate the teleportation array immediately to leave Cold Spring Prison. There can't be any delay in the process. If we wait until the experts in Cold Spring Palace react, we'll be dead. Tang Kong nodded, a glimmer of hope reignited in his eyes. No matter what, Tang Qing'er's plan was at least much safer than breaking into Cold Spring Palace. If the operation went smoothly, the three of them would have a chance to survive. "What do you think, Lord Araki Takashi?" Tang Kong turned his head and asked. "We'll talk about it later." Wu Dao's original body replied casually and continued to move in the direction of Cold Spring Palace. The three of them walked all the way and soon arrived at Cold Spring Palace. In other areas of Cold Spring City, one could fly, but in Cold Spring Palace, except for Cold Spring Hell Overlord, all other creatures had to land on the ground. Looking at the palace gate in front of him, Tang Kong took a deep breath and said, "Lord Araki Takashi, if we enter Cold Spring Palace, there's no way out you." Without waiting for him to finish speaking, the martial Dao true body already took the lead and walked into the imperial palace. Tang Kong had no choice but to brace himself and follow. Wu Dao's original body was his savior. If it weren't for Wu Dao's original body, the Northern Ridge Tang family, including him, would have been wiped out by now. Even if there was a mountain of knives, a sea of fire, or a bottomless abyss ahead, he had to follow Wu Dao's original body inside. Not long after entering the palace, a shout suddenly came from behind. "Brother Tang!" Hearing this voice, Tang Kong's heart trembled and he cursed inwardly. He could only stop and look back. Not far away, hundreds of Hell King powerhouses were walking over. The person in the lead had a terrifying aura and a dignified expression. His eyes were like torches, and his facial features were somewhat similar to the dead Southern Forest young lord. Tang Qing'er's face changed when she saw the person. When Tang Kong turned around, his expression had already returned to normal. With a smile, he went over and cupped his hands. "Brother Shintu, how have you been?" This group of people was from Southern Forest. Leading them was the king of Southern Forest, Shintu. Shintu came closer and said, "Today is Brother Tang's 800,000th birthday banquet. If it weren't for Cold Spring Hell Overlord's concubine selection ceremony, I would have personally gone to congratulate Brother Tang." "It's fine." Tang Kong's expression was calm as he waved his hand. "Compared to Hell Overlord's concubine selection ceremony, my birthday banquet is nothing." Shintu smiled and said, "I thought Brother Tang would focus on the birthday banquet in Northern Ridge. I didn't expect Brother Tang to also come to participate in Hell Overlord's concubine selection ceremony. Right, should have already arrived in Northern Ridge. Why didn't she come with the two of you this time?" When Shintu was mentioned, Tang Qing'er's expression changed slightly. She felt guilty, and her gaze was somewhat evasive, not daring to look at Shintu. Shintu had already been killed by Wu Dao's original body. Her body and soul were destroyed. How could she follow them here? Tang Kong said, "Nephew Shintu is indeed not bad. It's just that the two children had a small conflict. He went with Southern Hell King, and did not come with us." At this time, Tang Kong's calmness and shrewdness could be seen. Facing Shintu question, Tang Kong's expression was calm, and there was nothing strange. It was as if he did not know that Shintu had already fallen. Even the lie was flawless, as if he had already prepared it. Not only that, Tang Kong's words just now helped Tang Qing'er to cover up the flaw that she had just exposed. Chapter 2662. Shintu naturally noticed Tang Qing'er's strange behavior, and panic flashed across his face. He was still secretly guessing, but when he heard Tang Kong's explanation, he suddenly understood, and did not think too much about it. He said, "Between young people, even a small conflict can be resolved." This is... Shintu gaze turned and landed on Wu Dao's original body. After Yuan Wu Grotto Heaven swallowed a large amount of Grotto Heaven power from the Northern Ridge Hell King, his body no longer had the aura of a medium-class realm. However, Wu Dao's original body looked a little strange, wearing a silver mask, only revealing a pair of deep eyes, looking rather mysterious. "This is a fellow Taoist that I've just met," Tang Kong said ambiguously, then changed the topic. and exchanged a few words with him. After a while, Shintalang said, "The concubine conferring ceremony should be starting soon. Let's enter the palace together. Brother Shintu, please go first. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll have to wait for a while." Tang Kong wanted to take advantage of the concubine conferring ceremony to sneak into the teleportation array, so he naturally could not enter the palace with Shintalang. "All right, see you at the concubine conferring ceremony." After Shintalang finished speaking, he led the Hell Kings of the Southern Forest towards the main hall of the Imperial Palace of Cold Spring. After Shintalang left, Tang Qing'er heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, in front of Shintalang, she almost could not withstand the pressure and lost her footing. If Shintalang discovered something unusual, the three of them could forget about successfully approaching the teleportation array. "Lord Araki Takeshi, let's go over too," Tang Kong probed. "This way." Tang Qing'er pointed in a direction and said, "This way, we can avoid many people, so we won't bump into any acquaintances." Wu Dao's original body did not mind, and just followed beside Tang Kong and his daughter, walking forward. Not long after, the three of them arrived near the main hall of the Imperial Palace. To reach the destination of the teleportation array, they had to pass through a huge square in front of the main hall of the Imperial Palace. At this time, the square was already filled with people. At a glance, it was densely packed and bustling. This time, the Imperial Concubine welcoming ceremony was a grand affair. Not only had many masters from the central capital come to attend, but many masters from the Eastern Plains, Southern Forest, and Caesar had also arrived. Tang Kong stood at the periphery of the square. With a sweep of his gaze, he saw the three lords of Eastern Plains, Southern Forest, and Caesar. There was no one else in the hall except for some guards and maids. Cold Spring Hell Master and the new Hell Concubine had not arrived yet. Tang Kong's expression was solemn. His Northern Ridge birthday banquet paled in comparison to the concubine conferring ceremony before his eyes. At the Northern Ridge birthday banquet, there were only a few thousand Hell Kings. There were probably tens of thousands of Hell Kings gathered in the square. Their terrifying auras intertwined in the air above the square. Any infernal realm creature that stepped into the square could feel the immense pressure. If the news of the Northern Ridge battle were to spread to the central capital and the Great Emperor Palace, their whereabouts would be exposed. At that time, they would be instantly overwhelmed by the crowd in front of them and torn to pieces. At this moment, a huge carriage slowly approached from the distant sky. In front of the carriage, there were 9 flood dragons pulling it. They were constantly roaring at the sky. Their cultivation had also reached the level of a Hell King. In the carriage there were 2 figures, a man and a woman sitting. The man was wearing a snow-white battle armor. A thick and heavy sword stood beside his feet, emitting a chill. The man's expression was cold and his face was pale. His eyes were as blue as gems. There was a strange rune imprinted between his eyebrows. It was the word Hell. Cold Spring Hell Master had arrived. Although Wu Dao's original body had never seen Cold Spring Hell Master before, no one could emit such a powerful aura other than him. Wu Dao's original body's gaze turned and fell on the face of the woman beside Cold Spring Hell Master. Wu Dao's original body squinted slightly. Under the Emo Luo mask, his expression changed. If he was not mistaken, this woman should be the Hell Master's Hell Concubine. Indeed, this Hell Concubine was extremely beautiful. Anyone who saw this woman would be amazed by the wonders of the world. Many living beings in the square, regardless of gender or cultivation realm, held their breaths instinctively when they saw this Hell Concubine. Their gazes were snatched away, and they could not look away for a moment. However, that was not enough to move Wu Dao's original body. What surprised him was that this prison concubine was almost identical to concubine Yu in Tianhuang mainland, be it in terms of appearance or figure. The only difference was that there was a strange hell rune imprinted between the Hell Concubine's eyebrows. How could this be? For a moment, many doubts flashed through the mind of Wu Dao's original body. Was this Hell Concubine the same person as Princess Yufei of Tianhuang mainland? If they were not the same person, why did they look identical, and even have the same aura? However, if they were the same person, how could this scene be explained? He had witnessed Princess Yufei's ascension in Tianhuang mainland with his own eyes. Why would the Hell Concubine come to the Hell world? What exactly did she experience after ascending to cause her to be reborn in the Hell Cold Spring and become a member of the ancient Ming race? Or could it be that living beings who ascended from small worlds could directly descend into the Hell world? But how was that possible? Even between a medium world and the Hell world, there was an unbreakable barrier. How could living beings from small worlds directly descend into the Hell world when they ascended? Countless doubts lingered in the mind of Wu Dao's original body. More importantly, even if the person in front of him was Princess Yufei of Tianhuang mainland, did she still have her memories after being reborn in the Hell Cold Spring? Tang Qing'er was a woman after all, and had seen the Hell Concubine before, so she was the first to recover. She glanced sideways and saw that Wu Dao's original body was staring at the Hell Concubine with a strange gaze. She could not help but curl her lips and mutter softly, "Looks like you're no exception." Tang Kong's expression was complicated. He wanted to say something but hesitated. There's actually such a woman in this world, really. If he were a few 100,000 years younger, he would even fight the Cold Spring Hell Master to the death for this Hell Concubine. The two of you stop looking, Tang Qing'er said with her divine sense. This is the best opportunity. The attention of everyone in the square is all on the Hell Concubine. We can leave this place. Tang Kong's heart trembled, as if he had just woken up from a dream. He said, "That's right. Lord Araki Takeshi, let's take this opportunity to leave this place. If we go to the teleportation array now, there's a high chance that we can succeed." Wu Dao's original body did not say a word, as if he did not hear anything. He was still looking at the Hell Concubine in the carriage. Tang Kong and his daughter looked at each other with a helpless expression. The two of them thought that Wu Dao's original body was already obsessed with the Hell Concubine's beauty and could not extricate himself. Tang Kong was anxious and urged, "Lord Araki Takeshi, are you still not leaving? This is a rare opportunity. If you miss it, I'm afraid there will be other changes." "I'm not leaving," Wu Dao's original body said indifferently. With a move, he arrived in midair and headed straight for the carriage at the front of the square. No matter who this Hell Concubine was, he had to get to the bottom of it. Chapter 2663. What was he trying to do? Tang Kong was shocked. The three of them were hiding at the back of the crowd and wouldn't be noticed for the time being. Now that Wu Dao's original body had soared into the sky, he would definitely be exposed. Sigh! Tang Kong struggled in his heart as he resisted the urge to turn around and run away. He sighed helplessly. Tang Qing'er was also at a loss. She didn't know the intention of Wu Dao's original body. On the square the heroes gathered. Even the tens of thousands of Hell Kings could only stand on the ground. Wu Dao's original body soared into the sky and walked over the heads of the Hell Kings, instantly attracting hostile gazes. Report! At this moment, a group of Imperial Palace guards sped over, looking anxious, as if something big had happened. This group of guards sped over in midair, crossing the square. It was the concubine conferring ceremony. The sudden appearance of this group of Imperial Palace guards immediately attracted the attention of many experts on the square. Cold Spring Hell Overlord's carriage had just landed on the main hall when this group of Imperial Palace guards arrived. "What's the matter?" Cold Spring Hell Overlord didn't get up and asked faintly. An Imperial Palace commander said in a deep voice, "Hell Overlord, Ming Feng and more than a dozen Hell Kings have fallen in the North Ridge. The King of the North Ridge colluded with outsiders from the Middle World and has defected. No one knows where he went." Cold Spring Hell Overlord narrowed his eyes slightly. When this news came out, there was a commotion on the square. What's going on? Living beings from the Middle World have descended? The King of the North Ridge really doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he betray the Cold Spring Hell? The noise on the square was getting louder and louder. Tang Kong, who was hiding at the back, felt uneasy. He felt an unprecedented pressure. Southern Forest King Shintalang's expression changed slightly. The King of the North Ridge had defected? He had just bumped into Tang Kong in the Imperial Palace. What was going on? At this moment, another figure sped over. It was the Southern Yuan Hell King. "Hell King, this is bad." Southern Hell King rushed to Shintalang and knelt down. he said sorrowfully. The king of the North Ridge has defected. Young lord was killed. What? Shen Taiying was infuriated and his gaze was sharp. He quickly reacted and said to the Cold Spring prison overlord in the main hall. Prison overlord. I just saw the traitor North Ridge. Tang Kong at the entrance of the imperial palace. I think he wants to take advantage of the concubine consort ceremony to escape through the teleportation formation of the Cold Spring prison. Lord Hellmaster, please make a decision as soon as possible before it's too late. Cold Spring Hellmaster looked calm and said unhurriedly, the teleportation formation is heavily guarded. Without my order, no one can get close. Hearing this, Tang Kong sighed in his heart. From the looks of it, even if they could reach the teleportation formation, it would be hard for them to leave the Cold Spring prison. Cold Spring Hell Overlord was extremely calm. He looked at the Emperor Palace's commander and asked, with Tang Kong's battle strength, how could he have killed Ming Feng and the others? It's not Tang Kong. The Southern Origin Hell King rushed to answer. I was at the scene at that time. Tang Kong had already been severely injured by Lord Ming Feng. It was that cultivator from the Middle Realm who made a move and killed Ming Feng and the other lords. Oh, Cold Spring Hell Overlord raised his eyebrows slightly and said, to be able to kill Ming Feng and the other underworld kings, this person is quite capable. Has he formed a complete grotto heaven? At the mention of this, the Southern Origin Hell King's expression was a little strange. He shook his head and said, it's not a complete grotto heaven. It should be a small grotto heaven, but it can continuously devour the power of other grotto heavens. At that time, there were thousands of Hell Kings, but they couldn't stop that dark grotto heaven from devouring. Impossible, Cold Spring Hell Overlord said decisively. How could the king of a small grotto heaven kill the underworld kings of the ancient underworld clan? The Emperor Palace's commander said in a deep voice, Lord Hell Overlord, I'm willing to lead the Imperial Palace's army to conquer the North Ridge and search for Tang Kong and the other traitors. We'll kill the outsider. There's no need to rush. Cold Spring Hell Overlord waved his hand and said, a few rotten fish and shrimps can't escape from me. After today's concubine consort ceremony, I'll deal with this matter personally. What are the features of that outsider? Get someone to describe him and hunt him down. Southern Origin Hell King said, that person is easy to recognize. He's wearing a purple robe and a silver mask. I think his name is Araki Takeshi. Hearing this name, the expressionless Hell Consort, who was motionless in the carriage, suddenly had a ripple in her eyes. A purple robe and a silver mask? Many Hell Kings turned their eyes and subconsciously looked at the cultivator, who was flying in midair. Southern Origin Hell King also looked at him subconsciously. After seeing Wu Dao's real body, Southern Origin Hell King trembled, as if he had seen a ghost. He was so frightened that he almost fell from midair. His eyes were filled with endless fear. He's here. Southern Origin Hell King pointed at Wu Dao's real body, his voice trembling. Cold Spring Hell Overlord also looked at Wu Dao's real body, with a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Are you the one who killed Ing? Shin Talang slowly got up and stood in front of Wu Dao's real body. His eyes were cold as he stared at Wu Dao's real body and asked slowly, Lord Hell King, it's him. Southern Origin Hell King swallowed his saliva and said with a trembling voice, I want you to pay for my son's life. Shin Talang let out a long roar. The blood in his body surged and the void behind him collapsed. He wanted to hold up the grotto heaven and kill Wu Dao's real body. According to the news just now, Shin Talang realized how powerful Wu Dao's real body was. So this time, he attacked with all his strength without holding back. However, Wu Dao's real body was even faster. Before Shin Talang could finish his words, Wu Dao's real body had already arrived in front of him. His blood surged as he raised his hand and punched. It was earth-shattering. In an instant the sky changed color. Before Shin Talang's blood could circulate, it was completely suppressed by Wu Dao's real body's blood. The grotto heaven behind him could not hold up, and was shattered by Wu Dao's real body with a punch. Bang! Under everyone's gaze, Shin Talang was blasted apart by Wu Dao's real body with a punch. He turned into a cloud of blood mist and filled the air. The king of the southern forest was completely destroyed. Not even his bones were left. If Shintalang had fully released his bloodline phenomenon in Grotto Heaven, he might have been able to block Wu Dao's real body's punch. Unfortunately, he talked too much. Wu Dao's real body did not say a word. He went forward and punched, blowing him apart. The entire square instantly quieted down. It was dead silent. Many hell creatures and hell kings widened their eyes as they looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. In the Cold Spring Palace, in front of the Cold Spring Hell Overlord, in front of tens of thousands of hell kings, this purple-robed man actually dared to kill in public. Moreover, he killed the king of the southern forest with a single punch. Tang Kong and his daughter had long seen Wu Dao's real body's methods. However, when they saw this scene, they were still shocked. This master from the medium-class world was even more powerful than the creatures in hell. No matter who you were or what your identity was, as long as you provoked him, he would start smashing you without saying a word. Chapter 2664. How dare you? The Imperial Palace commander in the main hall was enraged. How dare you kill someone in the Imperial Palace of Cold Spring? Die! At this moment, Cold Spring Hell Overlord's eyes narrowed, and he raised his hand slightly to stop the Imperial Palace commander. Cold Spring Hell Overlord did not want to kill Wu Dao's true body. In his eyes, Wu Dao's true body was a huge treasure. Normally, it was impossible for beings from the middle world to come to the infernal court. For this purple-robed man to be able to come here, there must be something special about him. The infernal court had fallen into the age of doom, and had not produced an emperor for many years. Cold Spring Hell Overlord could vaguely smell a trace of opportunity from Wu Dao's true body. Perhaps, he could find a way to step into the Emperor realm from this purple-robed man. If he could step into the Emperor realm, and become the only Emperor realm expert in the infernal court, he would become the Lord of Hell of the Nine Hells and rule over the infernal court. Without Cold Spring Hell Overlord's order, the others could not make a move. Under everyone's gaze, Wu Dao's true body successfully arrived in front of the Nine-Dragon carriage. You're from the middle world? Cold Spring Hell Overlord stared at Wu Dao's true body, his hand holding the giant sword beside his feet as he asked slowly. Wu Dao's true body did not even look at Cold Spring Hell Overlord. Instead, he looked at the beautiful woman in the carriage and asked softly, True Jade? Princess Yufei's name in Tianhuang mainland was True Jade. However, very few people knew about it. Moreover, this time, Wu Dao's true body did not conceal his voice. Hearing this call, the woman's eyes flickered. She looked at Wu Dao's true body with a surprised expression. This voice was somewhat familiar. However, she was not sure and did not dare to believe it. The woman remained motionless and silent. You know each other? Cold Spring Hell Overlord frowned. Wu Dao's true body still ignored him, and took off the Mara mask on his face, revealing a handsome face. The woman's eyes widened in surprise and joy. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. She tried her best to open her mouth, but no sound came out. Seeing the woman's reaction, Wu Dao no longer had any doubts in his heart. The woman in front of him was Princess Yufei. It wasn't that Princess Yufei didn't want to speak, but she was under some kind of restriction that prevented her from moving. She couldn't even make a sound. Wu Dao's main body had too many questions about Princess Yufei, but now wasn't the time to ask. Wu Dao's real body wore a cold expression as he put on the Imo Luo mask again. His eyes turned and finally looked at Cold Spring Hell Overlord. Wu Dao's main body asked in a calm tone. Wu Dao's original body had just ignored Cold Spring Hell Overlord twice, but this Cold Spring Hell Overlord didn't seem to be angry. He just had a sinister smile on his face. So what if I am? Cold Spring Hell Master raised his eyebrows slightly, a mocking look on his face as he asked, Do you want to uphold justice for her? Or do you want to challenge me? Ha 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 ha. Look, this cultivator from the middle world has come to our Cold Spring Hell to fight for justice. What do you mean by fighting for justice? I think he's just mesmerized by the Hell concubine and has lost his mind. How dare he come to the Hell Overlord and make a fuss? A burst of laughter came from the square. Very well. Wu Dao's main body nodded and said, Since you admit it, I'll beat you to death. Before he finished speaking, Wu Dao's main body stepped forward. An ancient bronze square cauldron suddenly flew out from between his eyebrows. It instantly expanded and landed in his palm. It was the imperial weapon, the prison-suppressing cauldron. Wu Dao's main body lifted the prison-suppressing cauldron and smashed it down on Cold Spring Hell Overlord's head. This time, Wu Dao's main body didn't release the elemental martial Grotto Heaven. Cold Spring Hell Overlord's Grotto Heaven had been cultivated to perfection. His elemental martial Grotto Heaven might not be able to withstand it. Under normal circumstances, Wu Dao's main body rarely used weapons when killing people. But today, he took out the prison-suppressing cauldron to kill Cold Spring Hell Overlord as soon as possible. Once he got rid of Cold Spring Hell Overlord, although there were still tens of thousands of Hell Kings around, they were like a group of dragons without a leader. How dare you? Cold Spring Hell Overlord was furious. Ever since he became the Cold Spring Hell Overlord and ruled over a part of Hell, it had been many years since anyone dared to use weapons in front of him. But now tens of thousands of Hell Kings were below. This outsider from the middle world actually dared to take the initiative to attack him. Cold Spring Hell Overlord's reaction was also very fast. The moment Wu Dao's main body rushed up, he raised the Cold Spring Hell sword in his hand and slashed at the prison-suppressing cauldron. Break! Cold Spring Hell Overlord shouted. This Cold Spring Hell sword had been nourished and refined in the Hell Spring all year round. It nurtured the powerful energy of the Hell Spring, and the coldness was bone-chilling. Even Grotto Heaven's spiritual treasures of the same level couldn't withstand the sharpness of his Cold Spring Hell sword. Even Grotto Heaven's spiritual treasures, nurtured by Grotto Heaven's spiritual treasures, couldn't withstand the power of his sword. Wu Dao's main body was indeed a Grotto Heaven spiritual treasure, but his prison-suppressing cauldron wasn't a spiritual treasure, nurtured by Grotto Heaven's spiritual treasures. It was the weapon of a great emperor from the ancient era. Clang! The Cold Spring Hell sword clashed with the prison-suppressing cauldron, and an ear-piercing sound was heard. Then, a layer of frost covered the prison-suppressing cauldron in the blink of an eye, and it froze into ice, as if it had turned into an ice sculpture. Ha 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 ha! Cold Spring Hell Overlord laughed. How dare you show yourself in front of me? Wu Dao's main body looked calm as he activated his divine sense to awaken the saint soul in the prison-suppressing cauldron. Roar! Roar! Screech! Hiss! Suddenly, 4 earth-shattering roars came from the prison-suppressing cauldron. Then, the surface of the prison-suppressing cauldron shone brightly. On the walls of the cauldron, 4 terrifying beasts came to life and broke out of the ice. Cold Spring Hell Overlord was shocked. The auras of the 4 saint beasts were extremely powerful. The saint beast's domineering aura descended on the main hall, and the 9 dragons in front of the carriage were suppressed to the point that they did not dare to move. The 4 saint beasts woke up at the same time and charged towards Cold Spring Hell Overlord. Boom! 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 Under the attack of the 4 saint beasts, the huge carriage collapsed. The seal in the carriage disappeared quietly, and Princess Yufei regained her freedom. Wu Dao's main body waved his sleeves and brought Princess Yufei out of the carriage, placing her behind him. At this moment, the 4 saint beasts had already charged towards Cold Spring Hell Overlord. The azure dragon circled, the white tiger roared, the vermilion bird bathed in flames, and the black tortoise stepped on the waves. As Wu Dao's main body's cultivation base rose, the prison-suppressing cauldron's power also rose rapidly under the nourishment of his Grotto Heaven. The 4 saint beast souls had also been reborn under the baptism of the 10 heavenly tribulations. They had undergone a transformation, and were even stronger than during the Endless Era. Now the power of the 4 saint souls had reached the Grotto Heaven realm. Under the attack of the 4 saint souls, Cold Spring Hell Overlord was a little overwhelmed and wanted to activate the ancient Ming clan's bloodline. However, the 4 saint souls also exuded the bloodline aura of the 4 saint beasts. Under the suppression of the 4 saint beasts' bloodline aura, Cold Spring Hell Overlord's ancient Ming clan's bloodline was suppressed, and its circulation slowed down. Chapter 2665. Boom! Since Cold Spring Hell's bloodline anomaly could not be released, he could only raise his heavenly abode to devour the 4 holy souls. At this time, Wu Dao's true body held the subduing Hell Cauldron and slammed it down on Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode. Boom! A loud explosion resounded, Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode shook violently, and faint cracking sounds could be heard. Wu Dao's true body's blood essence surged, and his eyes burned with purple flames. His body seemed to have turned into a burning furnace, and he fell from the sky. Boom! 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 Wu Dao's true body turned into a furnace, and together with the subduing hell cauldron, even the Yuanwu Grotto heaven was opened. He did not give Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode any chance to catch his breath. Coupled with the four holy souls' attacks, Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode couldn't even find a chance to escape from the battlefield. Wu Dao's true body's attacks were too ferocious. He had used almost all of his trump cards in this attack. Bloodline Anomaly, Yuanwu Grotto Heaven, and Subduing Hell Cauldron. There were tens of thousands of Hell Kings around, and Wu Dao's true body had to kill Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode as soon as possible to get rid of this biggest threat. Just how terrifying this cultivator from the middle-class world, just as Cold Spring Hell's heavenly abode was razed, not to mention smashed into pieces by Wu Dao's entire body's Spring Hell might not be able to suppress on the spot. Kill him and avenge the Hell Master. The subduing Hell cauldron, the leader of the Imperial Palace's commanders, reacted immediately, and raised his arm came from the cauldron. At the same time, Cold Spring Hell's took out a message talisman from his storage bag. The four holy souls started to released appear, it to summon the Imperial guards of Cold Spring Palace. In the hands of Wu Dao's true body, person will be the subduing Hell cauldron was finally able to unleash someone in the crowd shouted, "Emperor weapon!" This voice seemed to have stirred up a thousand waves. The Hell Kings in the square were filled with murderous intent out a mouthful of blood. They stared at Wu Dao's original body in the main hall. Wu Dao's true body's everyone was afraid of Cold Spring Hell Overlord without the protection of his heavenly abode. Not only was Cold Spring Hell Overlord powerful from the furnace and Hell Cauldron, but he had a large number of under everyone's gaze. Underworld kings. Cold Spring Hell Overlord was smashed into pieces by a furnace surrounded by blazing flames, underworld clan and a bronze cauldron surrounded by other underworld kings of the ancient Hell Overlord rose up. Spirit couldn't they would not be able to challenge devoured by the heaven Overlord's smelt of Wu Dao's true body. The other Hell creatures had no chance at all in an instant. Now, although Wu Dao's original body had fallen, Cold Spring the whole process happened too quickly. He was only one person. Many jail kings were still in thousands of Hell Kings present. Their eyes were wide open. Later, and their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. The ancient underworld there were many Hell Kings and hundreds of millions of Hell soldiers. But none of them expected that Cold Spring Hell Overlords would be killed by Wu Dao's body just with only one person and weak. Even the guards of the Imperial Palace they had the entire not have time to make a move. Even though Wu Dao's original body they wanted to attack Wu Dao's real combat strength, but they were stopped by Cold Spring Hell not afraid at all. Everyone thought that Cold Spring Hell Overlord must have other intentions and wanted to take advantage of the chaos in the blink of an eye and enter the Imperial Overlord had died. Kill this. Many of the infernal realm beings in the crowd let out a shout at this scene and muttered to the main hall. He actually killed the original body sent Princess Yufei into the main hall behind him. Was a good thing for him. He stood in front of the main hall because Cold Spring the Hell Overlord's death meant that the entire earth-shattering hell had no leader. Roar. It would definitely fall into chaos. Open his mouth, and heroes would compete for the position of Hellmaster. Sound of all spirits. No one would bother to hunt him down. Hundreds of millions of hell creatures to be old friends with the Hell Concubine original body because the Hellmaster imprisoned the Hell Concubine. This in a sound of anger, spirits combined with Wu Dao's blood at scene to unleash a powerful destructive force. There was envy and fear. Puff, puff. Although most of them were Hell Kings, some Hell Kings with weak physiques, ordinary bloodlines, and insufficient cultivation realm were shattered on the spot by the sound of all spirits. They turned into a cloud of blood mist, and were destroyed in both body and soul. Some Hell Kings were still able to withstand it, but they were also severely injured and bleeding from their 7 orifices. Only some Hell Kings and Hell Kings with large grotto heavens were able to stabilize themselves and preserve their lives after releasing their bloodline anomalies or holding up their grotto heavens. The numerous Hell creatures were like a black torrent, surging forward violently. However, the roar of the martial Dao true body stopped the black torrent, and there were even signs of it being cut off. Wu Dao's original body threw the hell-suppressing cauldron into the crowd. At the same time, the 4 holy souls rampaged through the black torrent, slaughtering everything in their path. At the same time, Wu Dao's original body activated his primordial spirit and continuously cast spells. Karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Crimson flames suddenly burst out of the bodies of the infernal realm beings, burning their flesh and blood. The Hell creatures let out a series of shrill screams. Wu Dao's original body's attack did not stop. A black flame suddenly spread out from under his feet and burned toward the black flood in front of him. Chapter 2666. The Karmic Fire of the Red Lotus, and the hellfire rushed into the black torrent of hell's creatures and exploded with terrifying destructive power. The hellfire came from the Avicii hell, and it contained the pain of billions of creatures. Under the burning of the hellfire, the hell's creatures were in great pain and were utterly defeated. Even the Hell Kings and Underworld Kings who had formed Grotto Heavens were struggling to hold on. What surprised Wu Dao was that the karmic fire of the Red Lotus was the one that caused the most damage to the Hell's creatures, not the hellfire. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus could burn karmic obstacles and even refine superpowers. It could unleash terrifying power in both the minor and middle worlds. Now in the Cold Spring Prison, after the karmic fire of the Red Lotus was released, it could sense the nether chi around it. Hundreds and thousands of Hell Kings were burned to ashes by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. It felt like the karmic fire of the Red Lotus could not unleash the true power of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Only the nether chi could unleash the full power of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Could it be that the karmic fire of the Red Lotus originated from the infernal court? Wu Dao's mind flashed with doubt. However, the battle was in full swing, and he could not afford to be distracted. The underworld kings of the ancient underworld could not hold on under the burning of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. The underworld kings who had formed Grotto Heavens could barely hold on. Some of the underworld kings with small Grotto Heavens released karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Even their bloodline could not suppress it. Not only that, when they released their bloodline phenomenon, the karmic fire of the Red Lotus in their bodies burned even more fiercely. Wu Dao activated his bloodline, and his entire body emitted scorching heat. He was like a giant furnace that was burning red as he charged into the crowd. Bang! 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 Under the burning of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus and hellfire, the Hell's creatures on the square were either dead or severely injured. Under such circumstances, no one could stop Wu Dao's footsteps. Boom! The martial Dao primordial body punched out, directly destroying the bodies of several Hell Kings. He continued to push forward unstoppable. Tens of thousands of Hell Kings and Nether Kings of the ancient Ming clan were utterly defeated by Wu Dao body's attack. Wails of agony filled the air as blood flowed like a river. Rumble! Not far away, the thunderous sound of iron hooves could be heard. A large black cloud rolled over. Banners fluttered in the wind, and armor was cold. It was unknown how many Hell's soldiers were charging toward this place. Tang Kong and Tang Qing, father and daughter, had long hidden outside the battlefield. Seeing this scene from afar, they were shocked. Is he going to fight the entire Cold Spring Prison by himself? Tang Kong swallowed his saliva and tried his best to suppress the shock in his heart. He said slowly, "It's not a fight. He might be trying to suppress the Cold Spring Prison." Tang Qinger shuddered and murmured, "Is it possible?" Yes. "Nothing is impossible," Tang Kong said. "If you want to reach the top of the Cold Spring Prison, you have to kill to stop killing, and use violence to stop violence." Even the underworld race and the underworld race had to use extreme methods to enter the Cold Spring Prison. They had to bleed and step on countless corpses. Moreover, Wu Dao's true body came from the middle world. The underworld race had an innate hatred for people from the middle world. The only way to make them submit was through a baptism of blood and slaughter. Wu Dao's true body had another treasure, the underworld treasure mirror. The destructive power of the netherworld treasure mirror was extremely terrifying, but the treasure itself also emitted an evil aura. Wu Dao's true body had used it once in the North Ridge, so he was a little wary of it. He didn't want to use the underworld treasure mirror unless he had no other choice. Wu Dao's true body showed no fear in the face of the Hell Army. He activated his primordial spirit and shrunk the range of the Hellfire and Red Lotus Hellfire, forming a barrier around him. Any underworld race that stepped into this area would be burned by the two types of flames. Wu Dao's true body realized that he might be facing a long and fierce battle. The underworld race in the Cold Spring Prison wouldn't surrender so easily. The underworld race army formed by billions of underworld race charged toward the fire-forbidden zone, leaving behind countless corpses and ashes. Wu Dao's true body held the prison-suppressing cauldron and was surrounded by the four saint souls. He was invincible. Kill! 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 Among the underworld race army, sounds of battle and horns rang out. He's only one person. If we keep attacking, we can exhaust him to death. How can an outsider enter the cold spring prison? The will of hell will not be bullied. The underworld race army roared. The battle began in the morning during the concubine conferring ceremony and lasted until evening. Although the underworld race army's attacks were weakened, they didn't stop. If Wu Dao's true body came from the cold spring prison, these underworld race army would have submitted to him long ago. However, Wu Dao's true body wasn't from hell. This was completely unacceptable to the underworld race army. The flames of war continued to spread, and the entire Cold Spring Palace was shrouded in flames. Thick smoke billowed, the smell of blood filled the sky, and corpses were everywhere. Wu Dao's true body turned the Cold Spring Palace into a fiery hell. This battle lasted for an entire day and night. Neither side retreated. Tang Kong and Qing stood outside the palace, watching the fierce battle. They didn't leave. Since the start of the battle, it was no longer a simple contest of strength. It was a contest of wills. Wu Dao's true body was fighting against the wills of billions of underworld race army. Although the underworld race army's attacks hadn't stopped, the seeds of fear had been planted in the hearts of the underworld race army. The figure bathed in flames in front of them was like a god of war who didn't know fatigue. He slaughtered everything in his path and stood firm. A sense of helplessness rose in the hearts of every underworld race army. That person seemed to be unstoppable and undefeatable. Even if they gathered the wills of billions of underworld race army, they couldn't shake that figure. In fact, Wu Dao's true body's physical strength, blood essence, and essence spirit had all reached their limits. If he hadn't used the furnace of heaven and earth to refine his body and form the perfect true Wu Dao body, he definitely wouldn't have lasted until now. Both sides had reached their limits. Any external force could change the entire battle situation. After a day and night of fighting, Wu Dao's true body's physical strength had reached its limit, but his will was still unshakable. He seemed to be alone, but he had founded the Wu Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. He represented the Wu Dao civilization, and he gathered the wills and faith of countless Wu Dao citizens. He carried the hopes of countless ordinary beings. These wills, faith, and hopes were indelible and eternal. Chapter 2667. During the day and night of battle, while Wu Dao was fighting, he was also sorting out his own Dao techniques. Looking at the forbidden area formed by the Red Lotus Hellfire and the Red Lotus Hellfire, his mind could not help but recall the scene of the Divine Tree awakening. The Divine Builder Tree released a green halo that enveloped everything within a radius of 100 miles. Under the cover of this ball of green light, all the cultivators, including the immortal kings, were greatly restricted. They could not even break through the void to escape. In the area enveloped by the green halo, the Divine Builder Tree was the only god. The green light released by the Divine Tree was similar to the barrier formed by the two flames of Wu Dao's original body. Wu Dao's future path was becoming clearer and clearer. It was gradually taking shape in his original body's mind. What Wu Dao's original body wanted to do was to end this battle, cultivate in seclusion, sort out his Dao techniques, and take the final step. At this point in the battle, both sides had reached their limits. Wu Dao's original body took a deep breath. Looking at the many hell creatures who were still charging in front of him, he activated his primordial spirit and continuously changed his hand seals. Behind him, a gigantic door shrouded in black energy appeared. This door was like a dark abyss. It was like an ancient giant beast that opened its bloody mouth and could swallow everything. After Wu Dao's original body gained control of the prison-suppressing cauldron, he had used a supreme Dao technique to create a gate of hell. Back then, when Wu Dao's original body was going through the tribulation, he had not fully mastered this secret technique. It only contained a trace of the power of the grotto heaven. The door of Avicii that was formed only had the shape of a grotto heaven, and did not have the will of a grotto heaven. Even so, with this gate of hell, he could withstand the 10th tribulation. Now Wu Dao's original body had fully mastered the power of the grotto heaven. This gate of hell evolved again, and transformed into the door of Avicii. The door surrounded by black gas in front of him was exactly the same as the door of the Avicii hell. Boundless Avicii chi surged within it, and it was filled with the pain of billions of living beings as it swept toward the army of hell. Wu Dao's true body erected the door of Avicii in front of him, blocking the army of hell. Countless armies of hell were swallowed up by the gates of Avicii, vanishing without a trace. The Inferno Forbidden Zone, combined with the door of Avicii, dealt the greatest amount of damage to the endless army of hell. The area of raging flames in front of him, and the endless abyss shrouded in black gas, seemed to be an insurmountable barrier. Crossing it meant certain death. The battle lasted for a day and a night. The soldiers of hell were already at their limits. The arrival of the door of Avicii was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The creatures of hell were cruel and bloodthirsty, and they didn't fear death. However, even though they knew that they were going to die, and they couldn't see any hope of survival, the creatures of hell still felt fear and dread. In this battle, too many of the hell creatures in Cold Spring Prison had died. Corpses and bones piled up around the palace, forming a continuous mountain range. Endless blood flowed at the foot of these mountains of corpses. These were just the corpses that could be seen with the naked eye. There were also countless hell creatures that were burned to ashes by the two great flames of Wu Dao's true body. According to the statistics of the later generations of the Infernal Court, more than 20,000 Hell Kings died in the Cold Spring Prison in this battle alone. The number of other hell creatures was estimated to be more than 100 million. The Cold Spring Palace had completely turned into a fiery hell. The flames of war were everywhere, burning fiercely. Even standing outside the palace, one could see the bloody mountains of corpses inside the palace. It was a shocking sight. This battle had greatly damaged the vitality of Cold Spring Prison, and it had been quiet for many years. Wu Dao's true body had killed the kings of Cold Spring Prison by himself, and countless hell creatures had bowed down to him. He had achieved a supreme reputation. All the hell creatures who participated in the battle, even if they were lucky enough to survive, were shrouded in a shadow of terror. The name of Araki Takashi had even become a taboo in Cold Spring Prison. The hell creatures did not even dare to mention it among themselves. The battle had ended. Countless hell creatures had fled Cold Spring City, and those that remained knelt on the ground, bowed their heads, and did not dare to resist. The Cold Spring Prison had changed hands. Countless hell creatures looked up at the figure in the flames of war. The blood-soaked purple robe, the cold silver mask, and endless fear grew in their hearts. Even when facing the former Cold Spring Prison overlord, many hell creatures did not feel this way. Tang Kong and Tang Qing stood outside the palace and witnessed the entire battle. Even now they still felt that it was somewhat unreal. This Araki Takashi had won? He had suppressed countless hell creatures and trampled the entire Cold Spring Prison under his feet. Tang Kong let out a long breath. His expression was complicated, and his eyes were half happy and half worried. On the one hand, Wu Dao's true body had become the new Cold Spring Prison overlord, so they did not have to run around in the future. On the other hand, Cold Spring Prison would fall into a long period of turmoil. Cold Spring Prison was too big. Eastern Plains, Southern Forest, Western Lake, Northern Ridge, and even Central Capital. There would definitely be some strong forces that would stand out to fight against Wu Dao's true body. Of course, with the means that Wu Dao's true body had shown, these strong forces were nothing to be afraid of. The biggest threat to Wu Dao's true body was the other 8 hells. It would not be long before news of today's battle spread to the other 8 hells. Although hell had been hit hard and fell into the age of chaos, without the rule of the Lord of Hell, the 9 hells were independent. If Cold Spring Prison had changed hands, the 8 hells might not care. But Wu Dao's true body was an outsider after all. If the new Lord of Hell came from a middle world, the 8 hells would not allow this to happen. Once the 8 hells united, they were much stronger than Cold Spring Prison. They would not easily yield and retreat. Tang Kong brought Tang Qing back to the palace. This time, the way Tang Qing looked at Wu Dao's true body had completely changed. Before this, although Wu Dao's true body had shown great power in Northern Ridge, killing many underworld kings and suppressing the hells of hell in Northern Ridge, Tang Qing was not too afraid of Wu Dao's true body. After this battle, Tang Qing did not even dare to look at Wu Dao's true body. "You're here just in time." Wu Dao's true body saw Tang Kong's return and nodded slightly. After the battle, the maintenance of Cold Spring Palace and Cold Spring City, including the hells of hell in the city, will be left to you. Tang Kong was stunned. With his ability, it was not too difficult to deal with these things. However, he was only the king of Northern Ridge. If he wanted to lead the hells of hell in Cold Spring City, it would be difficult to convince the public. Wu Dao's true body seemed to see Tang Kong's concerns and said casually, "From now on, the seat of Cold Spring Prison's overlord will be yours." Chapter 2668. Wu Dao's true body did not care about the position of the Cold Spring Hell Lord. To him, the most important thing was to cultivate in seclusion. Secondly, he had to find a way to leave hell and return to the middle world. Even if Wu Dao's true body was the Lord of Hell, he would not have any nostalgia for this place, let alone the Cold Spring Hell Lord. Of course, he still had many doubts about hell. Perhaps Princess Yufei in the hall could give him some answers. Hearing the arrangement of Wu Dao's true body, Tang Kong did not feel any joy in his heart. Instead, he looked bitter and hesitated for a moment before agreeing. In his opinion, he was just a puppet of Wu Dao's true body. All the living beings of hell in the Cold Spring Hell knew who the true master of the Cold Spring Hell was. If the 8 hells attacked the Cold Spring Hell, as the Cold Spring Hell Lord in name, he would not be able to escape death. Sigh. Tang Kong sighed in his heart. He could not refuse Wu Dao's true body. If not for Wu Dao's true body, he would not have lived to this day. During his birthday banquet, the Tang family would have been wiped out by Ming Feng and the others. All right. Tang Kong cheered up and forced a smile, thinking to himself, to be able to ascend to the throne of the Cold Spring Hell Lord before I die, I won't have lived in vain. Wu Dao's true body did not know the complicated thoughts in Tang Kong's heart. After leaving all these trivial matters to Tang Kong, he turned and walked into the hall. Princess Yufei stood inside, and the two of them looked at each other. Princess Yufei looked at the person in front of her without blinking. Her expression was complicated, and her heart was filled with emotions. At this moment, she recalled many things in the past. She recalled the scene when she first met that delicate scholar in the depths of the great Qian ruins. She recalled that in the old capital of the Yin Kingdom in Tianhuang mainland, the person in front of her was so weak that he even needed her help. But this weak and delicate scholar had grown too quickly. During the convention of 1,000 tribes, the scholar had almost caught up to her. Later on, this person established the Wu Dao, imparted martial arts to the common people, quelled the chaos of the vicious races, suppressed the calamity of bloodlines, and ultimately reached the peak, being granted the title of Eternal Wu Huang. At that time, this person had completely surpassed her. Princess Yufei had her own pride. She had once thought of using the excuse of seeing the little fox to take a look at him. But that day, a gorgeous and dazzling woman in a blood-red robe suddenly appeared beside this person, and she gave up on this idea. The blood-robed woman annihilated the Magus race of Heaven Wasteland with a casual palm strike. With a wave of her hand, she slaughtered the living beings of the upper world. She looked down on all living beings and was insufferably arrogant. Princess Yufei still couldn't forget the shock she felt when she saw that scene. Even with her pride, she felt ashamed of her inferiority before the blood-robed woman. Princess Yufei's beauty was worthy of any praise in the world. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city and turn all living things upside down. Even the blood-robed woman did not seem as beautiful as her. However, if the two of them were to stand together, the blood-robed woman would be able to steal all the light from her. Anyone who stood side by side with the blood-robed woman would pale in comparison. When Princess Yufei saw the blood-robed woman holding Su Zimo's hand, she put away her distracting thoughts and never looked for Su Zimo ever since. However, she had not expected that the two of them would reunite in Cold Spring Prison today. Furthermore, this person had already grown to the point where he could suppress the entire Cold Spring Prison single-handedly. The two of them remained silent for a long time before Wu Dao's true body spoke first. I witnessed your ascension personally in Tianhuang mainland. Why are you here? So he was still paying attention to me in Tianhuang mainland. A thought flashed through Princess Yufei's mind. Princess Yufei shook her head gently. Indeed, I ascended through the tribulation. However, I was struck by the turbulence of the cosmos during my ascension and died on the spot. Died? Wu Dao's true body frowned slightly and asked, You're already dead? Of course. Princess Yufei smiled bitterly. If not for the fact that I'm dead, why would I come to hell and be reborn as an ancient Ming in Cold Spring Prison? Wu Dao's true body was even more confused. As though she could tell that Wu Dao's true body was puzzled, Princess Yufei explained, Generally speaking, when all living beings die, their souls will escape into the netherworld. In the netherworld, after being baptized by Acheron's water, they will lose their memories of their previous lives. Thereafter, under the guidance of the living beings of the netherworld, the souls of all living beings will be sent into the 6 paths. Hell is one of the 6 paths. When he heard that, Wu Dao's true body was shocked. Princess Yufei's short words revealed too much information. Furthermore, the information was shocking. The 6 paths in the 6 paths of reincarnation were the heavenly path, human path, Shura path, animal path, hungry ghost path, and hell path. And the so-called hell path was actually a vast and boundless realm that could coexist with the middle world. If the hell path represented a realm, did that mean that the other 5 paths were the same? The 6 paths of reincarnation. Perhaps this was the true meaning of the 6 paths. And Princess Yufei's words also confirmed a speculation that Wu Dao's true body had before. Hell and the netherworld were 2 completely different places, but they were inextricably linked. Wu Dao's true body asked, "Your soul was sent to hell, so you were reborn in Cold Spring Prison?" Princess Yufei nodded and said, "The ancient Ming of the 9 hells are actually the souls of all living beings in the 3,000 worlds. They were sent to hell through the netherworld, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation, and received different powers from the 9 springs of hell, and were reborn in the springs. To be precise, this can't be considered rebirth, because these souls no longer have the memories of their previous lives, and they have completely removed all traces of their previous lives. A new life was born in the 9 springs of hell, and this is the ancient Ming." Wu Dao's true body found a loophole and asked, "Then why did you still have the memories of your previous life when you were reborn in the cold spring?" Princess Yufei said, "Because I once accidentally obtained a magical flower called the red spider lily. There's nothing special about this flower in Tianhuang mainland." When my soul fell into the netherworld, it carried the red spider lily. It was because of the protection of the red spider lily that my memories of my previous life were preserved. Later, I was reborn in the cold spring. Although I changed my physical body and have the bloodline of the ancient Ming, I still retain the memories of my previous life. Wu Dao's true body nodded secretly. As long as she retained the memories of her previous life, from a certain point of view, Princess Yufei did not truly die. Or it could be said that this was just her rebirth. Princess Yufei took out a bright red flower from her sea of consciousness and said with some confusion, "I saw this red spider lily on both sides of Acheron Road in the netherworld. I heard that the red spider lily only grows on both sides of Acheron Road. I don't know why there is one on Tianhuang mainland." Chapter 2669. Princess Yufei's words solved many of the doubts in Wu Dao's heart. At the same time, it also revealed a corner of the mysterious veil of the infernal court. The so-called incarnation was not born out of thin air. Instead, it was a life that evolved from the souls of all living beings, that escaped into the infernal court after they died and borrowed the power of the 9 springs of hell. Although the ancients in the infernal court could not reproduce, as long as living beings died and entered the underworld or hell, there would be an endless stream of ancients born. Wu Dao's true body pondered for a while and asked, since the souls of the underworld can enter the infernal court through the 6 paths, can the living beings in the infernal court go to the underworld? No. Princess Yufei shook her head and said, so far, I have never heard of a path from the infernal court to other realms. The underworld and the infernal court are 2 independent realms. To be precise, the minor kiliacosm, the middle kiliacosm, the underworld, and the 6 paths are all independent, but there is a certain connection between them. Wu Dao's true body nodded secretly. When the living beings of the minor kiliacosm cultivated to a certain level, they could ascend to the middle kiliacosm of a higher level. After the living beings of the minor kiliacosm and middle kiliacosm died, their souls could enter the underworld. In the underworld, the souls could enter the infernal court, or the other 5 paths through the 6 paths of reincarnation. The martial Dao body asked, if the souls of those who perish in the minor and middle worlds enter the underworld, and enter the 6 paths of reincarnation, can we follow this clue to find the whereabouts of these souls? Wu Dao's true body asked this because he thought of his brother Su Hong and Ji Yaoxue. Impossible. Princess Yufei shook her head and said, think about it. There are billions of minor kiliacosms and 3,000 middle kiliacosms. Who knows how many living beings there are? Countless souls return to the underworld at every moment. It is as vast as the sea. How can we find them? What's more, these souls have been baptized by Acheron and lost their memories. They are completely cut off from their previous lives. If they go through a few more reincarnations, it will be even more impossible to find them. Wu Dao's true body was silent. He knew that Princess Yufei was right. At every moment, countless souls were escaping into the underworld. Su Hong had been dead for many years, and his soul had entered the netherworld. He had long entered the 6 paths of reincarnation, and his whereabouts were unknown. As for Ji Yaoxue, up until now, Wu Dao himself had no idea what had happened to her. Ji Yaoxue had passed away in his arms. However, in the end, Ji Yaoxue's body disappeared into thin air from the coffin. Wu Dao's true body had once thought that he might be able to find some clues in the underworld. From the looks of it, even if he could enter the underworld, he probably wouldn't be able to find anything. How did you come to the infernal court? Princess Yufei looked confused and asked, you don't look like you were born in the underworld. I was pushed into an abyss in a secret realm, and then I came here. Wu Dao's true body briefly described the entire process. At the mention of this, there were still many doubts in his heart. Who was the old monk guarding the tomb? What did he have to do with the infernal court? What was his motive for pushing him down? Princess Yufei was also confused about this matter. Clearly, she had never heard of the old monk guarding the tomb or the Avicii hell. Your cultivation isn't slow. Wu Dao's true body swept his spirit consciousness across Princess Yufei and changed the topic. Princess Yufei's cultivation was equivalent to a heaven immortal in the heaven realm, and was not much different from other old friends of Tianhuang mainland. Princess Yufei smiled and said, I was born in the underworld spring thanks to the bloodline of the ancient Ming race, and the underworld spring. Princess Yufei was also much happier to see an old friend of Tianhuang mainland in this dark and gloomy underworld, and a smile appeared on her face unconsciously. In addition, the ancient Ming race can cultivate a forbidden secret manual, the Hell of the 9 Springs, Princess Yufei added. A forbidden secret manual? Wu Dao's true body's expression changed. It should be known that only the cultivation techniques cultivated, created, perfected, and passed down by the great emperor could be called a forbidden secret manual. Could the ancient Ming race cultivate a forbidden secret manual? Princess Yufei saw the strange expression on Wu Dao's true body's face and said, "To be precise, it's only one of the chapters of the Hell of the Nine Springs, the Cold Spring chapter. Although it's only one chapter, and not at the level of a forbidden secret manual, it can still be called the best cultivation technique." Wu Dao's true body asked, "So the Hell of the Nine Springs has 9 chapters, corresponding to the 9 springs of hell?" Princess Yufei nodded and said, "Each chapter is next to its own spring. For example, the ancient Ming race in the Cold Spring prison can only cultivate the Cold Spring chapter. If they cultivate the other chapters at the same time, there will be a big problem. If it's light, their cultivation will dissipate. If it's serious, they may even die. I heard that before the Age of Chaos, other than the Lord of Hell, there were also some hell creatures who could cultivate more than one chapter of the Hell Sutra. However, after the Lord of Hell died, no one could cultivate more than one chapter of the Hell Sutra." Wu Dao's true body asked, "Why is that?" Princess Yufei replied, "It's said that in addition to the 9 chapters of the Hell Sutra, there's an important chapter that links the 9 chapters of the Hell Sutra. Only by mastering this chapter can one cultivate the complete Forbidden Secret Manual. The Lord of Hell engraved this fundamental formula on an ancient mirror that he always carried with him. Ever since the Lord of Hell died, this ancient mirror was also lost. As time passed, this chapter was gradually lost." Hearing this, Wu Dao's true body's heart skipped a beat. He took out the underworld treasure mirror and handed it to Princess Yufei. "This is?" Princess Yufei asked tentatively. Wu Dao's true body said, "I picked up an ancient mirror in the Hell of Avicii. It's quite evil. It might be the ancient mirror that belonged to the Lord of Hell. However, this ancient mirror doesn't have the chapter you mentioned." Wu Dao's true body turned the ancient mirror to the back and said, "On the back of the ancient mirror, there are only 4 words. Underworld treasure mirror. There are no other words." Just as Wu Dao's true body turned the underworld treasure mirror around, his palm brushed past the edge of the ancient mirror. He felt a sharp pain in his palm, and a trace of blood flowed out. Wu Dao's true body's eyes narrowed. His physical body was so strong. Wu Dao's true body had been cultivated to the peak. Even ordinary grotto heaven spiritual treasures could not hurt him. Now, just by accident, the edge of this ancient mirror had cut his palm. That was not the end of it. Just as Wu Dao's true body was about to place the ancient mirror aside to check on his wound, a powerful suction force burst forth from the edge of the ancient mirror. As though it had transformed into a bloodthirsty weapon, the underworld treasure mirror devoured the bloodline of Wu Dao's true body hungrily along the wound. Wu Dao's true body's eyes flashed coldly as he flung the underworld treasure mirror away, wanting to throw it down. However, the underworld treasure mirror seemed to have grown into his wound. The edge of the ancient mirror was embedded deeply into the wound, and even went much deeper. Wu Dao's true body could clearly sense that his bloodline was being drained by the underworld treasure mirror at an alarming speed. If he could not stop this process, he would probably turn into a dried corpse in a dozen breaths' time. Chapter 2670. Wu Dao summoned the hell-suppressing cauldron and smashed it towards the netherworld treasure mirror. Clang! There was a deafening sound. The hell-suppressing cauldron and the netherworld treasure mirror collided. A blood-red light appeared on the mirror surface of the netherworld treasure mirror, emitting an extremely evil and filthy power that repelled the hell-suppressing cauldron and enveloped Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body shuddered. The evil and filthy power was extremely strong. Even the perfected Wu Dao's true body could not withstand it. The runes in his bones and flesh showed signs of melting. Unexpectedly, Wu Dao's true body was dragged into danger by this evil ancient mirror before he encountered any powerful opponents in the Cold Spring prison. Wu Dao's true body did not have time to think. He summoned his soul lamp and released his martial soul fire to ignite it. The burning soul lamp emitted a golden halo that dispelled the evil and filthy power around it. Wu Dao's true body held the soul lamp and placed it below the netherworld treasure mirror, burning it with the fire of the soul lamp. Ah! A tragic cry seemed to come from the netherworld treasure mirror. Immediately after, The netherworld treasure mirror trembled and fell from the wound on Wu Dao's true body's palm. It quieted down once more. Wu Dao's true body heaved a sigh of relief. The reaction of the netherworld treasure mirror earlier was most likely caused by the weapon spirit within it. The awakening of the weapon spirit should have been stimulated by the endless power of the grotto heavens during the battle in the North Ridge. After the weapon spirit was awakened, it used the netherworld treasure mirror to devour blood essence crazily. Earlier on, the weapon spirit even had designs on Wu Dao's true body. Furthermore, soul lamps were extremely lethal to spirits and souls. Therefore, when Wu Dao's true body summoned the soul lamp, although it did not hurt the netherworld treasure mirror, it caused great damage to the weapon spirit within. Wu Dao's true body held the soul lamp and burned it around the netherworld treasure mirror for a while. The netherworld treasure mirror remained silent and did not react anymore. It seemed that the spirit had been extinguished by the soul lamps. Wu Dao extinguished the soul lamp and put it away. Then he picked up the netherworld treasure mirror again. This time, a strange feeling suddenly surfaced in his heart. It was as if a faint connection had been established between him and the netherworld treasure mirror. Wu Dao's true body speculated that the appearance of this feeling was very likely related to the netherworld treasure mirror devouring his bloodline. He tried to activate it a few more times, but there was no reaction from the netherworld treasure mirror. Until now, he still had no idea what the ancient mirror was used for, or how to activate it. But this time, when his divine sense surged into the netherworld treasure mirror, he seemed to have sensed something, and with a command of his mind, an expanse of dense and strange talisman markings slowly appeared on the surface of the netherworld treasure mirror. There are words. Princess Yufei looked at the strange talisman markings on the netherworld treasure mirror and exclaimed softly, "It's the netherworld language." Wu Dao's true body glanced at it. The strange talisman markings on the netherworld treasure mirror were clearly of the same origin as the words in the Yin Yang seal scripture that Qinglian's true body had shown him. "This is the netherworld language?" Wu Dao's true body asked. Princess Yufei nodded, paused for a moment, and then shook her head. She said, "I don't know the details, but the beings of hell all call it the netherworld language. The hell scripture of the 9 springs is written in this language." Wu Dao's true body asked again, "Can you understand the netherworld language?" "Yes." Princess Yufei nodded. Chapter 110 Literature. She had been born in the cold springs of hell and stayed in the cold spring prison for thousands of years. She had long since become familiar with these strange talisman markings. Princess Yufei looked at the strange talisman markings on the netherworld treasure mirror with an excited expression. She said, "This is the foundation of the hell scripture of the 9 springs. Quickly put it away, and don't let anyone see it." Wu Dao's true body said casually, "It's okay. You can look at it as you wish." Princess Yufei's heart trembled. She quickly glanced at Wu Dao's true body, and then withdrew her gaze. The foundation of the foundation could organize and connect the 9 chapters of the hell scripture. It contained the core essence of the secret scripture. It was no small matter. Back then, only the Lord of Hell had the complete foundation of the foundation of the foundation. The other lords of hell could only be rewarded by the Lord of Hell and pass down a few sentences in the foundation of the foundation of the foundation if they made a great contribution. Even so, it was enough for these lords of hell to enjoy endless benefits. And now, the person in front of her didn't hide anything and allowed her to read this secret scripture as she wished. Princess Yufei's heart couldn't help but ripple. At this moment, she heard Wu Dao's true body say again, "After you finish reading it, you can also explain to me the meaning of these netherworld words." So this is his intention. Princess Yufei thought to herself as a look of disappointment flashed across her eyes. Princess Yufei abandoned these distracting thoughts and quickly focused her mind to read the general formula in the netherworld's treasure mirror. She read the netherworld treasure mirror on her own, while explaining the netherworld treasure mirror, word by word to Martial Dao body. It took Princess Yufei an entire night to annotate the entire book. This night was also a huge drain on her spirit. The Taoist technique contained in this fundamental formula was indeed incomparably profound. If she wanted to comprehend its essence, she would still need some time to figure it out. Of course, with this fundamental formula, her future path of cultivation had suddenly become incomparably wide and bright. If she had the chance in the future to obtain the other 8 sections of the Hell's Sutra, it would be equivalent to her obtaining the complete Hell's Sutra of the 9 Springs. Wu Dao's true body had a higher cultivation base, and he had read many superior cultivation techniques, and even a few taboo manuals. With his eyesight and talent, it was natural for him to reap greater benefits in a single night. Originally, he had some doubts about whether the Hell's Sutra of the 9 Springs was a taboo manual. However, after reading the general formula, he was almost certain that the Hell's Sutra of the 9 Springs was a taboo manual. The Taoist technique contained in this sutra was so profound that only a taboo manual could touch upon it. In that case, the Lord of Hell should have cultivated to the level of a great emperor. Of course, Wu Dao's true body had not only obtained the general formula of a taboo manual in a single night. Through Princess Yufei's explanation, he had already understood many of the so-called netherworld language. The first and second sections of the Yin-Yang charm scripture were only slightly more than 600 words. Now Wu Dao's true body could already read the Yin-Yang charm scripture by himself. Wu Dao's true body had only roughly browsed through it once, and only felt that the 600 words in the Yin-Yang charm scripture were even more profound. Every word and every sentence seemed to contain some kind of truth of the great Tao. If one pondered slightly, one could comprehend other Taoist techniques that were infinitely profound. This Yin-Yang charm scripture seemed to be of a higher level than the Hell's Sutra of the 9 Springs. At the very least, it was at the level of a taboo manual. "Oh right." Princess Yufei seemed to have thought of something, and said with a serious expression, "If news of today's battle spreads, the experts of the 8 hells will not sit idly by." Wu Dao's true body's mind was focused on the 2 sutras, and he replied absent-mindedly, "I even suspect that the 8 hells will join forces to deal with you." Princess Yufei was afraid that Wu Dao's true body did not know the pros and cons of this, and said, "You didn't see Tang Kong's tearless expression when you made him the Cold Spring Hell's overlord. He must have realized the consequences of this matter. You can't be careless." Chapter 2671. Wu Dao's main body remained silent. If the 8 hells worked together, it would indeed be quite troublesome. He had killed Cold Spring Hell Overlord by surprise, and with the help of the prison-suppressing cauldron. If the 8 Hell Overlords were all as strong as Cold Spring Hell Overlord, he would not be able to stop them even if he used the prison-suppressing cauldron. The underworld treasure mirror was too evil, and he did not know how to use it. Soul lamps were very harmful to the primordial spirit and soul, but the Hell Overlords had a physical body and bloodline, so soul lamps could not cause them direct harm. Moreover, his Yuanwu Grotto Heaven had always been hiding an invisible danger. Every time he released the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven, his spirit sense would warn him. If this danger could not be resolved, he would have to be careful in future battles, and not use the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven casually. Fortunately, the Infernal Court was under the influence of the Last Age, and there were no Emperor Realm experts. If his Wu Dao could take the most crucial step, even if the 8 Hell Overlords worked together, they would not be a threat. Wu Dao's main body asked, "Where can I go into seclusion here?" Right now, the most important thing for him was to seize the time and go into seclusion to digest the 2 scriptures he just obtained and perfect Wu Dao's derivation. After all, the 8 hells had been independent for many years. It would not be easy to unite this power in a short period of time. This was Wu Dao's main body's chance. Princess Yufei said, "Next to the Hell Spring, there are a few secret rooms where the Hell Overlords used to cultivate. There are formations and restrictions outside, so no one can get close." Lady Jade explained, "Next to the Hell Spring, I've heard the
that
Nether
before
Chi
the end of the era
thickest,
of law and hell,
so it will be easier
the water
to
flow
absorb
of
the
power
cold
of the
spring
Hell
was
Spring.
much larger than what we see now."
Wu Dao's main
the
body
lake it
nodded.
formed was also
It was a good
several times
opportunity
larger
for
than
him
this one
to see the
more than half
legendary
of this
Hell
hall
Spring
was
that had
submerged.
strange power.
Later,
Princess
the world was
Yufei
shattered,
led Wu Dao's
and the
main
great
body
Dao
into
and
the
laws
depths
were
of the
incomplete.
palace.
As
The
a
closer
result,
they got to the
the
back
cold
of the
spring
palace,
gradually dried
the
up,
faster the
and the lake
temperature dropped.
receded. The surrounding palace was covered in a layer of frost. Wu Dao's main body looked at the cold spring of hell in front of him thoughtfully. Princess Yufei reminded him, the dark qi around the cold spring of hell was indeed the densest. It has an obvious suppressive effect on creatures of other bloodlines. To call it the center of the cold spring creatures living in water. Its function and status might be even more important. Princess Yufei was born from the tree in the heaven realm, so she had no resistance to the cold spring of hell. Tree could gather heaven, earth, the other infernal realm beings couldn't even get close. For all kinds of creatures to cultivate. Silent. The cold spring of hell in front of them could be said to be the source of the dark lower and lower. The cold spring Princess Yufei didn't feel water was different from the divine builder tree. She was surprised to discover that Wu Dao's main body was also of the heaven realm, motionless, as if he wasn't affected at all. Water flowed continuously. On the contrary, tracing back beside Wu Dao, there must be a spring source on the other side of the cold spring. It was warm and comfortable. The spring of hell was right in front of Wu Dao's main underworld from the other hells. The spring source would have to release their heavenly body was curious to resist the chill. What kind of spring source passed through a long passageway? And it didn't take long for them to even nourish the entire cold spring. What entered their eyes was a huge lake. Wu Dao's main body rose forward and transformed into all kinds of creatures in the air. The lake's temperature was even lower. Even with Wu Dao's terrifying size of a well, he could feel constantly rising like coldness on his body. The spring water flowed in all directions, with a layer of white creating frost. Ripples that formed a huge main body looked at the cold spring lake. If they weren't mistaken, and narrowed his eyes, the water at through the layers of the lake should be the source of the cold springs of light of different shapes. Wu Dao's main body looked around water and found that creatures were nurtured in them, had some traces of being submerged by the cold spring. At a glance, it was densely packed and innumerable. There were all kinds of creatures in it. These balls of light were like fetal membranes. These creatures in the fetal membranes were the souls that had escaped into the hell realm. These souls were immersed in the cold spring lake, constantly absorbing the power of the cold spring prison. With this power, they gradually developed flesh and blood and obtained new life. The souls that had just entered the cold spring lake sank to the bottom of the lake. As time passed, these souls absorbed enough power and regained their flesh and blood. When they were about to awaken, they would float up. This scene was a little strange, and it made one's hair stand on end. There were also some guards around the cold spring lake. These guards already knew the result of the battle outside. They looked at Wu Dao's main body with some fear. Princess Yufei explained, "These are the ancient Ming race's reception guards. If there are ancient Ming incarnations, there will be guards to receive them, teach them the Tao, awaken their bloodline, and then go over there to cultivate the cold spring scripture." Following Princess Yufei's gaze, Wu Dao's main body saw a tall stone tablet beside the cold spring lake. Densely packed words were carved on it. They were all strange runes. Wu Dao's main body came closer and read the cold spring scripture from top to bottom. He had first read the 9 springs hell scripture, and then read the cold spring scripture. It was much smoother for him, and some obscure parts became easier to understand. Wu Dao's main body memorized the cold spring scripture. Then, under Princess Yufei's guidance, he came to a secret cultivation room. Although it was called a secret cultivation room, it was actually quite spacious. It was equivalent to a large-scale cave residence. There were all kinds of miscellaneous items inside. Wu Dao's main body gave a few more instructions to Princess Yufei. Then he began his closed-door cultivation in the secret cultivation room. This closed-door cultivation was very important. It was a great leap in cultivation. It would determine Wu Dao's future limit. Chapter 2672. 10 days had passed since the conference of the 9 clouds. During this time, the news about Araki Takashi from the demon region causing trouble at the conference of the 9 clouds spread throughout the heaven world, causing a huge shock. Almost everyone in the heaven world knew that a new demon had appeared in the demon region. At the conference of the 9 clouds, he had suppressed the celestial kings of the 2 regions. In the end, even the imperial emperors of the 2 regions had appeared. This matter had even spread to the heaven world, and the experts of other worlds had heard about it. The news about the conference of the 9 clouds continued to spread in the heaven world, causing countless discussions. No one knew that the initiator of this matter, Araki Takashi from the demon region, had fallen into the hell world and was completely isolated from the medium world. Qinglian's real body was cultivating in seclusion in the Qingxiao celestial region, looking for an opportunity to break through. During the conference of the 9 clouds, Su Zimo had used the divine tree of Jianmu. Qinglian's real body had absorbed enough energy to support him, condensing a fruit of Tao and stepping into the true first level. However, it was far more difficult for him to become a true immortal than other cultivators and creatures. This was because Qinglian's real body had cultivated many different Tao skills. Moreover, the power of each Tao skill was extremely strong. Almost all of them were comprehended from forbidden scriptures, so they couldn't be assimilated by other Tao skills. As the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long had said, if he wasn't Qinglian, his body and primordial spirit wouldn't be able to contain so many Tao skills, and he would have exploded long ago. Because of Qinglian, whether it was the celestial way, Buddhist way, demon way, or monster way, they were all his opportunities. Before reaching the true first level, he hadn't encountered too many difficulties. However, if he wanted to step into the true first level, he had to condense a fruit of Tao. Fruit of Tao was the condensation of the essence of a Tao skill. It could be said to be the culmination of a Tao skill. If he wanted to condense a fruit of Tao from the celestial way, Buddhist way, demon way, and monster way, he would face a huge rejection and conflict. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Su Zimo needed an opportunity. If it was before this, it would be very difficult for him to get this opportunity in a short time. Not to mention 10 days, 10 years, or even 100,000 years, he might not be able to take this step. However, with immortal King Ling Long's guidance, he was able to translate the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. With his current cultivation, he was still unable to comprehend his own Tao art from the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. But even then, he'd obtained a great deal of experience and comprehension from the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture in these 10 days. Yin and Yang clashed and formed all things. All things in the world had the Tao of Yin and Yang. Heaven and earth, sun and moon, day and night, cold and heat, movement, opening and closing, life and death. Yin and Yang, the Tao of heaven and earth, the outline of all living things, the origin of life and death, the abode of the gods. If he wanted to condense the immortal Buddhist, fiend and demon Tao techniques into a single Tao fruit, he would have to complement it with the Tao of Yin and Yang, the power of Yin and Yang, and the form of Taiji to fuse them into one. Inside the cave, Su Zimo suddenly opened his eyes. His left eye was pitch black, while his right eye was pure white. The candlelight and nether glow divine stones seemed to transform into Yin and Yang as they flashed across his eyes. Su Zimo floated down from the bed. At the entrance of the cave, Lin Luo heard the commotion inside and woke up from her cultivation. She stood up. Over the past few days, she had been guarding Su Zimo here. If Su Zimo had any instructions, she would be able to help him at any time. How is it? Lin Luo looked at Su Zimo with anticipation in her eyes. Their cultivation levels were the same, but she hadn't found the opportunity to break through. Su Zimo didn't say much and only nodded. Lin Luo was smart and instantly understood what Su Zimo meant. Her eyes lit up as she said, "I'll inform my mother now." Lin Luo opened the door of the cave and was about to send a message when Lin Zhan suddenly appeared not far away. He asked, "Luo, what's wrong?" Over the past few days, not only Lin Luo, but Lin Zhan also didn't go far. While they were cultivating, they were also keeping watch nearby. Su Zimo bowed to Lin Zhan. Lin Zhan's face was obviously a lot redder than 10 days ago. The Yin-Yang Talisman scripture was indeed a magical book. In just 10 days, it had a great effect on Lin Zhan's injuries. Of course, the time was too short. Lin Zhan hadn't recovered to his peak, and his injuries hadn't healed completely. Before Lin Luo could say anything, Lin Zhan's gaze swept across Su Zimo's body. He had already sensed a huge amount of energy that was about to burst out from his body. This was a sign that he was about to break through. Good. Lin Zhan nodded and said, Ling Long has been setting up an immortal array these few days to hide your aura. Follow me. Lin Zhan brought Su Zimo and Lin Luo directly into the void and descended into a valley. This is the territory of the Battle Kingdom. There's no one within 1,000 miles. Lin Zhan explained. With the help of the immortal array and Ling Long casting a spell for you, you won't attract anyone's attention if you undergo the tribulation here. It's enough to hide from everyone. Thank you, seniors. Su Zimo bowed and thanked them. This was very important to him. The game between him and the person who had set up the array had already started. Before this, he was in a passive position in every aspect, and he was in the open. It was even to the extent that he didn't know exactly who was manipulating his fate. But now, with the help of the human emperor and immortal King Ling Long, he could take the initiative in this game. At this moment, immortal King Ling Long sensed the commotion and also came over. Lin Lei followed behind her. The two of them looked a little pale, and their auras were weak. In 10 days, in order to set up this immortal array, immortal King Ling Long and Lin Lei had obviously expended a lot of energy. Su Zimo was grateful and thanked them again. He looked at Lin Lei and also cupped his hands. Brother Lin, thank you. Lin Lei nodded and said calmly, No need to thank me. If you hadn't given my sister the worryless fruit and the 9 transformation yang pill, I wouldn't have bothered to help you. Su Zimo smiled and didn't say anything. Immortal King Ling Long frowned slightly and shook her head helplessly. She thought to herself, Child, if you know that you and Luo were saved by someone else in the Jade Firmament Immortal Realms Langfeng City, I wonder how ashamed you would be now. This matter involved Su Zimo's secret, so immortal King Ling Long couldn't explain it. She could only roll her eyes at Lin Lei. Immortal King Ling Long turned to Su Zimo and said gently, Zimo, this immortal array has been set up. You can go through the tribulation here with peace of mind. Don't worry about anything. What you need to do is to deal with the Truth One Heavenly Tribulation. Don't be careless. Lin Zhan also reminded. The Truth One Heavenly Tribulation is no small matter. Especially from the 79 Heavenly Tribulations onwards, there will be a qualitative improvement, and its power will skyrocket. You must be careful. Lin Zhan glared at Lin Lei again and said, Back then, when Lei was going through the Truth One Heavenly Tribulation, he was almost killed by the 79 Heavenly Tribulation. At the mention of this, Lin Lei's face turned red. Being scolded by his father in front of others, Lin Lei felt a little embarrassed, but he didn't dare to refute. He could only mumble softly, Let him go through the 79 Heavenly Tribulations first. Generally speaking, the stronger one's talent and the greater one's potential, the more terrifying the true martial Heavenly Tribulation would be. Thunder Emperor Feng Cantian and Human Emperor Lin Zhan had both gone through their 89 Heavenly Tribulations. For example, Lin Lei and Immortal King Ling Long had both gone through the 79 Heavenly Tribulations. To be able to go through the 79 Heavenly Tribulations was already a rare talent. Chapter 2673. You two should go back. Immortal Emperor Ling Long glanced at Lin Lei and Lin Luo and said all of a sudden, Su Zimo's tribulation this time round was no small matter. In the process of resisting the Heavenly Tribulation, the bloodline of the creation Green Lotus would definitely be exposed. Immortal Emperor Ling Long trusted her children, but the matter was related to Su Zimo's life. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. Lin Lei did not say anything. He was not interested in Su Zimo's tribulation in the first place. Lin Luo's eyes flickered with a hint of disappointment. She had also achieved the 9th stage Heaven Immortal Realm, but she had yet to find the opportunity to break through. Su Zimo's tribulation of the first Heaven Immortal Realm was not only a rare experience for her, but it might also allow her to comprehend something and find the opportunity to break through. Su Zimo was startled when he sensed the change in Lin Luo's emotions. He smiled and said, "Seniors, let them stay here and watch." This, Immortal Emperor Ling Long hesitated. Su Zimo shook his head slightly, implying that it was fine. He could tell what Immortal Emperor Ling Long was worried about. However, he had a feeling that his Qinglian's bloodline would be exposed after the tribulation today. Even if the person behind the tribulation of the First Heaven Immortal Realm did not make a move, he would still have a showdown with them. Besides, Lin Luo had been guarding him in the cave for the past few days, while Lin Lei was setting up the formation here. It was his reward for letting them watch from the side. Immortal Emperor Ling Long was overjoyed after receiving Su Zimo's permission. Qinglian's tribulation of the First Heaven Immortal Realm was extremely rare. Although it was only the first stage of the heavenly tribulation, no one knew what was going to happen during the process. Feel that this first stage of the heavenly tribulation was much more powerful and terrifying to watch from than the one he had experienced. It would be a great opportunity for them. It seems to be more powerful than big brothers in the past. Immortal King Ling Long reminded. Lin Luo also whispered. Lin Luo happily cupped her hands towards Su Zimo. As soon as she finished speaking, Brother Su many stage of the heavenly tribulation descended. Lin Lei felt crimson a little baffled. Lightning fell from the sky. He curled his lips cutting through the night sky. What's there to see? It was dazzling and directly fell on Su Zimo's heavenly body. Tribulation Boom. Of innate one. Standing on the spot. Lin Zhan narrowed his eyes move and at all. Said coldly, allowing the scarlet bolt of lightning to strike his head. The Thunder Emperor was lucky enough to by electric arcs. Takeshi's heavenly tribulation in lightning. That was how he was able to enter the grotto heaven. He crazily bestowed the title of baptized Qinglian's real body. What do you think is there to witness? In the process, are you comparable Qinglian's to the real body Emperor? Was also rapidly Lin growing was most and afraid of his toward the 12th stage. After being scolded by Lin Zhan, transcending the heavenly tribulation and kept quiet, was not only about but in his heart, he disagreed and thought to himself, his real body would also be reborn in this tribulation. Emperor. Growing to the Zimo is not a rocky and becoming a fully mature body. At that moment, only with a strong enough body and bloodline at the center of the valley, have the confidence the human to use the heavenly tribulation to temper the body. Long, in Su Zimo's eyes, and Lin Luo, the heavenly tribulation was not a killing tribulation at the edge of the valley, but a huge opportunity. Only by bathing in lightning had just stood and enduring when the deep rumble of the heavenly tribulation could Qinglian's real body gods were driving chariots slowly in the sky. Boom! Just a moment ago, the first stage of the heavenly tribulation had a total of 9 bolts. Countless dark clouds was more powerful and ferocious than the last. They kept gathering and spinning slowly. The initial bolt of heavenly tribulation was dark cloud vortex above this valley. By the time passed, the color of this cloud became darker and darker. That surged towards Su Zimo. It was as if ink could drip out from it. Su Zimo stood in the sea of red lightning, were already faintly discernible in the dark clouds. Instead, the huge and dense dark clouds when the lightning tide receded, the entire valley seemed to be shrouded in a gloomy darkness. Lin Luo could clearly see to have frozen, was unscathed, and the atmosphere was from beginning to end. A huge pressure lingered between heaven and earth. So strong, everything was silent. Lin Luo let out a sigh of relief and praised. Slightly. Not bad. Lin Lei nodded and said, "Little sister, do you remember when I transcended the heavenly tribulation? I relied on my body and bloodline to survive the first 3 tribulations?" Lin Lei did not say it directly, but the meaning was obvious. He wanted to prove that he was stronger than Su Zimo. Of course Lin Luo understood. She smiled and didn't say anything. As the two talked, the second tribulation had already descended. Yellow lightning fell continuously with great momentum, shaking heaven and earth. The first tribulation, the second, the ninth. The ninth tribulation of the second tribulation had already transformed into a golden sea of lightning. It shone with a blinding golden light that pierced through the void, as though it wanted to destroy the entire valley. Su Zimo was still motionless, as though his feet were rooted deep into the ground. No matter how the sea of lightning struck or how huge the waves were, it could not destroy him. After the second tribulation ended, the third tribulation descended quickly, as though it sensed that it could not pose any threat to Su Zimo. It did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath. Green thunderbolts bombarded him one after another. The bloodline in Qinglian's true body circulated continuously and absorbed the surrounding thunderbolts like a whale swallowing a cow, hungry and thirsty. Every single inch of Su Zimo's bones shone with electric arcs. Enveloped by the tribulation and blasted by the thunderbolts, he closed his eyes and multitasked. In fact, he even started cultivating the Void Thunder Manual, making use of the power of the tribulation to refine his body and bones once more and change his blood. Cultivating a cultivation technique, while transcending the tribulation, could be said to be unprecedented. In the blink of an eye, the third tribulation dissipated. Su Zimo stood on the spot the entire time without moving at all. In fact, he did not even open his eyes. Lin Lei frowned gradually. Back then, although he had relied on his body and bloodline to survive the first 3 levels of the heavenly tribulation, which was a total of 27 bolts, he had been struck until he was in a sorry state and covered in wounds. How could he be as calm and composed as Su Zimo? Those who did not know better would think that this person had fallen asleep during the tribulation. Lin Luo looked at Lin Lei with a fake smile. At this point, it was clear who was superior between the two of them. Chapter 2674. The fourth heavenly tribulation was accumulating. Blue thunderbolts intertwined and condensed into a gigantic beam of light that descended from the heavens and smashed onto Su Zimo's body. Faced with the fourth heavenly tribulation, Su Zimo still did not choose any mystic skills or weapons. He closed his eyes and bathed in the thunderbolts to temper his body with the heavenly tribulation. Boom! 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 Thunder rumbled and was deafening. Under the continuous bombardment, the fourth and ninth heavenly tribulations were formed in the blink of an eye. An azure ocean had formed in the sky above the valley. It surged as though it wanted to destroy everything in the world as it washed over the figure in the center of the valley. However, the figure stood motionless at the bottom of the deep sea. The aura in his body was still rising and getting stronger. It was as though he was provoking the heavenly tribulation. Lin Lei pursed his lips tightly and said nothing. He was well aware of the power of the fourth heavenly tribulation. Back then, he survived the fourth heavenly tribulation entirely because of the divine weapon that his father forged for him. Rumble! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the fifth heavenly tribulation descended. Purple lightning surged and thunder shook the world. Heaven and earth were filled with a dazzling purple light. Among the 4 people watching from afar, Lin Luo had the lowest cultivation realm. She could only see endless purple light in front of her, and could not even see Su Zimo's figure. Even though she was standing at the edge of the valley, she could still feel the terror of the purple thunder tide. Lin Luo was secretly shocked. Given her condition, it would be difficult for her to survive the fifth heavenly tribulation, even if she broke through now. The experience of watching from the sidelines made Lin Luo realize her inadequacies. She calmed down and was no longer in a hurry to find an opportunity to break through. Instead, she prepared to continue cultivating and sharpen her Dao techniques. Finally, the purple thunder tide retreated. Lin Luo focused her gaze. Su Zimo was still standing in the distance without moving. Even the grass and trees around him were destroyed by the purple thunder tide, and the sand and soil were scorched black. However, his green robes were still spotless. He had withstood the first 5 heavenly tribulations of the first truth with his body and bloodline. Immortal King Ling Long glanced at Lin Zhan and spoke in a light voice. Back then, you seem to have reached this step as well. Lin Zhan shook his head slightly and said, "Back then, in order to temper my body, I chose to go through the heavenly tribulation with my own body. However, I could only endure until the 5th stage at most. My body was torn apart by the heavenly tribulation, and my flesh was badly mangled. I was far from having it as easy as him. In my opinion, with his physical body and bloodline, it won't be a problem for him to take on the 6th stage of heavenly tribulation." When he heard that, Lin Lei's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly remarked, "There were rumors that Su Zimo is someone of the dragon race and possesses the bloodline of the dragon race. Could that be true?" As far as he knew, only a few races, such as the god race and the dragon race, could withstand the 5th heavenly tribulation with their physical bodies. Moreover, only the peerless geniuses of those races could withstand the 5th heavenly tribulation. "The rumors can't be trusted," Immortal King Ling Long said calmly. While they were talking, the 6th tribulation had already descended. The gray lightning was mixed with the aura of death. Wherever it passed, all life would be extinguished. Gray lightning descended one after another. It was as if it wasn't a heavenly tribulation, but a scythe from hell that harvested life. These gray lightnings smashed onto Su Zimo's body, and a series of loud bangs were heard. Under the gazes of the 4 people, Su Zimo's body finally moved. However, he only shook slightly before returning to normal. Su Zimo still didn't open his eyes. From the beginning of the heavenly tribulation, he had been standing there. No matter how the heavenly tribulation struck him, he stood there without collapsing. He was like a god that controlled lightning. The 6th tribulation was about to end, but it still didn't hurt Su Zimo at all. This kind of heavenly tribulation was unprecedented. Even with Lin Zhan and Immortal King Ling Long's experience, they didn't dare to imagine it. As expected of the green lotus of creation, the two of them looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. Lin Luo suddenly said, "Will Brother Su attract the 99 heavenly tribulation?" 99 heavenly tribulation. Hearing these words, Lin Lei was shocked. He immediately said, "How is that possible? 99 heavenly tribulation? There might not be one in the heaven realm in a million years." Back then, Father only attracted the 89 heavenly tribulation. Besides, how powerful is the 99 heavenly tribulation? Since ancient times, according to the ancient records, more than half of the geniuses have died under the 99 heavenly tribulation. If he really attracts the 99 heavenly tribulation, he might lose his life. In fact, Lin Lei could also see that the 99 heavenly tribulation was obviously not Su Zimo's limit. From this point of view, Su Zimo had already surpassed him. Rumble. The 99 heavenly tribulation condensed, and the color of the lightning was even darker. It had become completely pitch black, emitting a terrifying aura. Lin Lei subconsciously clenched his fists. Although he had been undergoing the heavenly tribulation for many years, seeing this black lightning still evoked some fear in the depths of his memory. Back then, under the impact of the 99 heavenly tribulation, he really had a narrow escape. He knew how terrifying the 99 heavenly tribulation was. Lin Lei believed that in the face of the 99 heavenly tribulation, Su Zimo would not be able to withstand it with his body and bloodline. Rumble. The first heavenly tribulation of the 7th heavenly tribulation descended. The pitch-black lightning was like a black spear, indestructible and unstoppable. Su Zimo still did not move. He did not even open his eyes. Just as the black spear was about to pierce the top of his head, he suddenly extended a finger and collided with the black spear. The collision of the spear and the fingertip caused the world to tremble. A visible ripple in the void spread in all directions. Air billowed and lightning splattered everywhere. The black spear shattered into pieces with a bang. The first heavenly tribulation of the 7th heavenly tribulation was destroyed by Su Zimo's finger just like that. Lin Lei was dumbfounded. Heavenly tribulation could be transcended like that. Back then, the 99 heavenly tribulation that almost killed him was destroyed by this person's finger. There were no mystic skills, divine weapons or dharma treasures. How could Lin Lei know that Su Zimo's Qinglian true body had already grown to the peak of grade 11, with the help of the baptism and tempering of the previous heavenly tribulations? It was also tempered by the taboo secret manuals, Jade Pure Jade Manual, and Heaven Burial Sutra. It was also augmented by the Divine Elephant Breath Devouring Technique, Void Thunder Manual, and many other top-tier cultivation techniques. Even top-tier divine weapons could not compare to his body and bloodline. Boom! The second heavenly tribulation descended. Su Zimo closed 2 fingers and formed a sword seal, pointing at the heavenly tribulation. Bang! The second heavenly tribulation dissipated once more. Boom! 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 Several heavenly tribulations descended from the skies in succession. Su Zimo closed his eyes and merely waved a single hand. His fingers, fists, palms and hand seals changed freely as he wished, shattering the 99 heavenly tribulations into pieces. In the blink of an eye, the 8 heavenly tribulations of the 7th heavenly tribulation were over. The 9th heavenly tribulation gathered above the firmaments and countless lightning bolts spun slowly, forming a pitch-black lightning tide that was prepared to accumulate the power of the heavenly tribulation to its peak before pouring down. Right then, Su Zimo raised his head and opened his eyes. A blinding beam of light burst forth from his right eye. Boom! This beam of light rushed into the pitch-black lightning tide and blasted it into pieces. Chapter 2675. Lin Lei and Lin Luo were dumbfounded. This was the 79 heavenly tribulations, the black lightning tide that had almost killed Lin Lei back then. Now, Su Zimo had destroyed it with a single glance. Even the human emperor Lin Zhan and immortal king Ling Long were shocked, let alone the siblings. The two of them had long known that Su Zimo had the bloodline of Qinglian's true body, but they did not expect it to be so powerful. Just one eye technique was enough to destroy the last lightning tide of the 79 heavenly tribulations. What kind of technique was this? Lin Zhan glanced at Lin Lei and said, "Now you should realize the difference between the two of you." Lin Lei didn't say anything. This meant that if he was a stage 9 heaven immortal, Su Zimo could suppress him with this eye technique. The difference was too great. Lin Lei clenched his fists and comforted himself. Tribulation is just a process. It doesn't represent future achievements. Perhaps when Su Zimo enters the True One realm and cultivates to my level, it's still unknown who is stronger and who is weaker. Lin Lei had a preconceived notion of Su Zimo. He thought that Su Zimo was trying to get close to Lin Luo because he had ulterior motives. That was why he was prejudiced. It was not that Lin Lei was purposely targeting Su Zimo. It was that in the past few years, the Warring States Kingdom had been plagued by internal and external troubles. Countless enemies were watching them from the dark. There was once someone who wanted to target Lin Luo, so Lin Lei had to be careful. When the two of them first met, Su Zimo was only a stage 5 heaven immortal. The difference between the two of them was huge. Lin Lei did not take Su Zimo seriously at first. Now that he saw Su Zimo showing signs of surpassing him, he could not accept it. While Lin Lei was lost in his thoughts, the 8th heavenly tribulation was formed. Crack! A white heavenly tribulation descended from the sky. This time, Su Zimo didn't stay where he was. Instead, he soared into the sky and rushed towards the heavenly tribulation. Back then, Wu Dao's original body had made such a choice when he faced the 8th heavenly tribulation of true martial. Now, Qinglian's real body also chose to face the 89 heavenly tribulations. Boom! Su Zimo raised his fist and collided with the white heavenly tribulation. His entire body shook violently, and his momentum that was soaring into the sky instantly stopped, stopping in midair. White lightning bolts poured into Qinglian's body through her pores, washing her flesh and bones, and cleansing her organs. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The power of the 8 and 9 heavenly tribulation was completely raised to another level. Although Qinglian's real body had withstood the first wave of the 89 heavenly tribulation, she had also suffered quite a bit of impact. The 89 heavenly tribulations are no small matter, Lin Zhan said solemnly. Since ancient times, no one has been able to withstand the impact of the 89 heavenly tribulation with their physical body. Immortal King Ling Long said, "Back then, under the impact of the 89 heavenly tribulation, you were severely injured and almost lost your life. The situation back then is still unforgettable." In midair, Su Zimo stood in the air, seemingly digesting the power of the first wave of the 89 heavenly tribulation. Crack! The 89 heavenly tribulation didn't give him any time to catch his breath at all. The second wave of heavenly tribulation arrived instantly. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. He directly used his innate ability, 6 tusks divine power. On his back, 6 jade-white elephant tusks pierced through his flesh and grew rapidly. They were sharp and filled with a powerful ancient aura. Su Zimo's physical body and the power of his primordial spirit instantly increased by more than 6 times. Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long exclaimed softly. The two of them could clearly see that on Su Zimo's back, under the 6 elephant tusks, another 2 elephant tusks faintly appeared. However, these 2 elephant tusks were extremely small. They were only 2 shadows, and couldn't be compared to the 6 elephant tusks at all. Although there were only 2 additional elephant tusks, Su Zimo's body exuded a strange aura. Supreme divine power? Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long looked at each other, and could see the guess in each other's hearts. This innate ability had already touched the threshold of a supreme divine power. In fact, after Su Zimo obtained the divine elephant breathing technique, he would deduce and comprehend it every time he went into seclusion. After the 6 tusks divine power merged with the divine elephant breathing technique, this innate ability also gradually transformed. However, due to his cultivation realm, Su Zimo hadn't completely comprehended it yet. The 6 tusks divine power also hadn't completely transformed and evolved. If this innate ability could transform into the 8 tusks divine power, it was very likely to reach the level of a supreme divine power. Boom! With the help of the 6 tusks divine power, Su Zimo raised his hand again and shattered the second tribulation that descended. Qinglian's true body endured the first 2 tribulations with her physical body. Immediately after, the third tribulation descended. Spirit Turtle Shield. Su Zimo unleashed another innate ability. It could be considered his most powerful defensive technique so far. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the Spirit Turtle Shield shattered. With the support of the 2 innate abilities, Su Zimo rose against the momentum and continued to climb, getting closer and closer to the tribulation clouds in the sky. Crack! The 4th tribulation descended. Great Vajrawil Seal. Great Meru Mountain Seal. 2 Buddhist supreme seals erupted in succession. The tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to descend as 2 huge majestic mountains and shattered the tribulation clouds. However, the tribulation wasn't over. The tribulation clouds had just shattered and quickly gathered again. Crack! The 5th tribulation descended. Kill Symbol Technique. Burning Sky and Boiling Sea. Permitha Bridge. Lotus Steps. Plucking the stars with one hand. Su Zimo's essence spirit was terrifying and extremely condensed. He unleashed 5 innate abilities consecutively. In an instant, the ground shook and the clouds changed color. Boom! 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 5 innate abilities shot into the sky. Not only did they shatter the 5th tribulation, but they also rushed into the tribulation clouds and stirred up the tribulation clouds again. Lin Zhan was shocked. With his essence spirit, unleashing 3 innate abilities consecutively was already close to his limit. If he forcefully unleashed the 4th innate ability, his essence spirit might suffer some internal injuries. If he unleashed 5 innate abilities consecutively, his essence spirit might collapse first. Crack! The tribulation clouds gathered again, and the 6th tribulation descended. White Tiger devours the corpse. Su Zimo's body was filled with blood mist and murderous aura. He pointed to the west. Roar! Accompanied by a deafening roar, the wind whistled, and a huge white tiger, Saint Beast, appeared from the west, swallowing the 6th heavenly tribulation into its stomach. Then, the white tiger Saint Beast rushed into the tribulation clouds and galloped. Under the white tiger Saint Beast's attack, the tribulation clouds gathered at a much slower speed. Su Zimo's figure continued to climb. The continuous attacks of the 89 heavenly tribulations couldn't stop him at all. Crack! The 7th tribulation descended. Heaven releases killing intent, shifting stars. Earth releases killing intent, dragons and snakes rise. Man releases killing intent, heaven and earth overturn. Heaven kill, earth kill, and man kill. The three great sword techniques were unleashed at the same time. Billions of sword auras shot into the sky. Countless stars appeared in the sky. Starlight sparkled, and sword light flashed. Dragons and snakes circled, summoning the wind and rain. Man kill, sword intent, heaven and earth overturned. Chapter 2676. The three great sword arts erupted at the same time. The tribulation clouds in the sky were riddled with holes, and were cut into pieces. Sword chi rushed into the sky, and the earth shook. Even Lin Zhan and the other three, who were far away at the edge of the valley, could feel the intense sharpness. It was like a thorn that rushed towards them. Too powerful. Back then, even human Emperor Lin Zhan almost died when facing the impact of the 89 heavenly tribulations, and defended with all his might. But now, Su Zimo actually went against the trend and fought the heavenly tribulation head-on. What was even more terrifying was that Su Zimo's every attack was clearly stronger than the first level of the 89 heavenly tribulations. Even the 89 heavenly tribulations couldn't stop Su Zimo's constantly rising figure. Crack! The 8th heavenly tribulation descended. Su Zimo activated his essence soul, and the hand seals in his hands changed again. 4 balls of flames of different colors appeared beside him, emitting a terrifying aura. Under the control of his hand seals, the 4 balls of flames quickly condensed and merged, forming a huge fireball that collided with the incoming heavenly tribulation. At the same time, a essence soul flame was released from Su Zimo's glabella and fused into the fireball. Whoosh! The flames burned brightly. This huge fireball seemed to have become a blazing sun that rapidly rose in the valley. It was dazzling and burned the surrounding void until it distorted. Lin Zhan and the other three, who were standing at the edge of the valley, felt the sharpness of the sword chi just now. In the blink of an eye, it was as if they were at the mouth of a volcano. Their faces reflected red light, and they were shocked. The Pentati Dao fire erupted. Boom! The heavenly tribulation collided with the fireball, emitting a loud bang. The heavenly tribulation dissipated. A huge hole was blasted in the fireball by the heavenly tribulation. The surface of the fireball was covered in cracks, and countless fire rain fell. But the Dao technique of the Pentati Dao fire still didn't dissipate. Go! Under Su Zimo's shout, the fireball that was about to shatter continued to rise, and rushed into the tribulation clouds before exploding. Boom! A red light exploded in the tribulation clouds, bursting forth with tens of thousands of rays of light. It rapidly spread out, and enveloped all the tribulation clouds. Red light filled the sky, All the tribulation clouds seemed to be burning, forming pieces of broken clouds of fire. Half of the sky was burning. There was only one last heavenly tribulation left, and it was also the most powerful heavenly tribulation. Although the tribulation clouds in the sky were burning red, they were still trying to condense and release the last of the 89 heavenly tribulations. At this time, Su Zimo had already arrived in the sky and stood in the middle of the tribulation clouds. His eyes were deep as he looked around. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and roared. Roar! A dragon's roar reverberated throughout the heavens and earth, piercing through gold and splitting rocks, deafening everyone. This roar was filled with endless majesty. Dragon roar secret technique erupted. The roar almost materialized and shook the void, forming ripples visible to the naked eye. Like waves of water, they spread out in all directions. The tribulation cloud that had just condensed was shattered by this roar, before it could release the last of the 89 heavenly tribulations. The tribulation clouds dispersed, and the sky returned to its original blue color. Lin Lei's eyes were lifeless, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a while. Tribulations can be transcended like that. Lin Lei's eyes widened, and he could not help but ask. He shattered the last of the 89 heavenly tribulations with a single roar. Even though he witnessed it with his own eyes, he still could not believe it. Immortal King Ling Long shook her head gently. To be precise, he didn't just rely on a sound domain secret skill. In reality, Zimo had the upper hand in every round of confrontation between divine powers and secret skills. The energy of some divine abilities, fierce sword insight, blazing flames, and various other Dao arts were ceaselessly accumulating within the tribulation cloud before completely erupting with that roar. Lin Lei was enlightened. The heavenly tribulation was accumulating power, continuously with thunderbolts descending one after another. It was only until the 9th heavenly tribulation that the power was pushed to its limits. As for Su Zimo, he countered attacks with attacks. Similar to the heavenly tribulation, he was accumulating power continuously before he could release it and destroy the 89 heavenly tribulations. Lin Lei could no longer tell if the heavenly tribulation was transcending Su Zimo, or if Su Zimo was transcending the tribulation. Lin Luo had just regained her senses. She chuckled softly and said, although Brother Su and Father are both transcending the 89 heavenly tribulations, Brother Su is obviously much more relaxed than Father. He is almost unscathed. Lin Zhan and Immortal King Ling Long did not speak. Instead, they looked at the sky above the valley with solemn expressions. Father, Mother, I'll go and congratulate Brother Su, Lin Luo said with a smile, and was about to go forward. Immortal King Ling Long suddenly reached out and pulled Lin Luo back. What's wrong? Lin Luo was a little confused. Seeing her mother's strange expression, she followed their gazes. Above the valley, Su Zimo was still standing in the air with his head slightly raised. He had no intention of leaving. At some point in time, thick tribulation clouds had appeared in the clear blue sky again. These tribulation clouds seemed to come from the end of heaven and earth. In the depths of the sky, rays of light flickered from time to time. They were filled with a terrifying aura that made one's heart tremble. This is... Lin Luo gradually opened her mouth wide. After pausing for a while, she exclaimed, 99 heavenly tribulations. Hearing these words, Lin Lei's body trembled slightly. 99 heavenly tribulations. It was rare to see one in the heaven realm in a million years. In the past million years, only Araki Takashi from the demon realm had reached this level. Although the upper realm was said to have 3,000 worlds, there should not be more than 100 monsters who could attract the 99 heavenly tribulations in this world. And now, he was lucky enough to witness it with his own eyes. Only now did he understand the deeper meaning behind Lin Zhan and Immortal King Ling Long's decision to leave the siblings behind. The 99 heavenly tribulations contained many Dao techniques. Being able to watch from the side was greatly beneficial to their cultivation. Moreover, it was rumored that the last 99 heavenly tribulations would have a supreme divine ability descend. This was an opportunity for everyone who watched. It would depend on who could grasp this opportunity in the end. The tribulation clouds condensed, and a terrifying pressure slowly descended. The 99 heavenly tribulations had yet to truly descend, but Su Zimo, who was above the valley, already felt a huge pressure. Although Wu Dao's original body had experienced the 99 heavenly tribulations before, it was only when it was Qinglian's turn to experience it that she could feel the pressure brought by the 99 heavenly tribulations. It was a kind of suffocating and irresistible majesty. Su Zimo's eyes were like torches, and his expression was fearless. He knew that the previous 8 heavenly tribulations could not be compared to the 99 heavenly tribulations. But he was still not afraid at all. His Dao heart was indestructible and unshakable. Crack! Finally there was a thunderous explosion. The first 99 heavenly tribulations descended. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he soared into the sky. He used Qinglian's true body to resist the first 99 heavenly tribulations. This scene was like a moth flying into a flame. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, a huge halo of light burst out in the air and spread continuously. A figure fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. Chapter 2677. A human-shaped pit appeared in the middle of the valley. It was covered in burn marks and emitted billowing green smoke. Not long after, a charred figure slowly stood up from the pit. Su Zimo's green robes were tattered by the first heavenly tribulation. His entire body seemed to have been burned into charcoal. Through his tattered clothes, one could clearly see that the surface of Su Zimo's body was cracked, and there were faint traces of scarlet blood. One had to know that during the tribulation, not only was Su Zimo not injured, but he even went against the trend and unleashed many divine abilities and secret techniques, easily overcoming the 8-stage heavenly tribulation. And now, just the first heavenly tribulation of the 9-stage heavenly tribulation had such a terrifying impact on him. Immortal King Ling Long was a little worried. She said in a low voice, "The 9-stage heavenly tribulation is known as the ultimate heavenly tribulation. It destroys everything. As far as I know, many of the monstrous beings who attracted the 9-stage heavenly tribulation didn't make it. This was only the first heavenly tribulation of the 9-stage heavenly tribulation. The further it went, the stronger the heavenly tribulation." Crack! The second heavenly tribulation descended. Su Zimo acted out of character. He didn't release any divine abilities or secret techniques, nor did he take out any divine weapons. He stomped his feet on the ground and soared into the sky again, resisting the heavenly tribulation with his physical body. Boom! At an even faster speed, Su Zimo's figure fell into the pit from earlier on. Cough cough. This time, Su Zimo was beaten even more miserably. He slowly crawled out of the pit, covered in wounds. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and looked dispirited. "Mother, what is he doing?" Lin Luo was a little anxious. She couldn't help but ask, "Even if he wants to temper his physical body, isn't it too risky to do this?" Not only Lin Luo, but Lin Lei also didn't know. It was just 2 heavenly tribulations, but Su Zimo looked like he had lost half his life. How could he withstand the remaining 7 heavenly tribulations? Lin Zhan and Immortal King Ling Long had long been crowned kings, so their eyesight was better. They could see some other things on Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo's injuries were indeed very serious. However, the life force in his body was also endless, growing and multiplying endlessly. It was frantically healing his injuries. This kind of self-healing speed was extremely terrifying. Unfortunately, the heavenly tribulation of Shinichi did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath. The third bolt of the 99 heavenly tribulation descended once again. This time round, Su Zimo stood on the spot motionlessly, allowing the third heavenly tribulation to arrive and penetrate his body. His chest and abdomen had been pierced through, and his internal organs had suffered devastating damage. Lightning constantly circled around, preventing Qinglian's true body from healing itself. More than half of the flesh on his arms and legs had been washed away by the third heavenly tribulation, revealing the green bones underneath. The third 9x9 heavenly tribulation almost washed away all the flesh and blood on Su Zimo's body, leaving only a green skeleton standing in place. It was a ghastly sight. His injuries were too severe. Stage 9 heavenly immortals could indeed be reborn from a single drop of blood, but there was a limit to it. Under the shroud of such a terrifying power of the heavenly tribulation, it was impossible to even heal his injuries, let alone rebirth from a drop of blood. Lin Lei estimated that if he were to suffer such severe injuries, he would probably have to recuperate for a year and a half before he could recover fully. What a pity, Lin Lei lamented internally. In his eyes, the fact that Su Zimo could attract the 99 heavenly tribulation meant that he was indeed stronger than him. Unfortunately, the 99 heavenly tribulation could claim Su Zimo's life as well. If Su Zimo was already beaten to such a state by the third bolt of the 99 heavenly tribulation, how was he going to defend against the remaining 6? It was a sure death situation. Even if someone were to help him during the tribulation, it would be useless. Just as Lin Lei was pondering, his gaze swept past Su Zimo once more, and he could not help but exclaim softly. Under the encirclement of countless thunderbolts, Su Zimo's bones were regenerating rapidly, while his shattered organs were healing furiously as well. This kind of self-healing speed was too fast, and could be seen with the naked eye. Su Zimo's body surged with endless vitality. His entire body was almost enveloped by a green light, and was full of vitality. What's going on? Lin Lei was dumbfounded. Only Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long could see something. Su Zimo was the body of the creation Qinglian. His self-healing ability was far superior to other living beings and other bloodlines. And now, Su Zimo used the power of the heavenly tribulation's lightning to unleash the creation Qinglian's self-healing ability to the extreme. Apart from destruction, lightning also contained vitality. With the sound of spring thunder, all living beings were revived. The lightning from the sky not only caused severe injuries to Qinglian's true body, but it also awakened all the vitality of Qinglian's true body. Shattering healing, destruction rebirth. Throughout the whole process, Qinglian's true body was constantly transforming. She was reborn and rapidly grew towards the peak of rank 12. In just a few breaths' time, Su Zimo had already regrown his flesh and blood, and recovered to his original state. His condition was even better than before. There were no injuries on his body at all. When Wu Dao's true body transcended the first 3 tribulations of the 99 heavenly tribulations, he relied on Wu Dao's body to forcefully endure them. Although Qinglian's true body hadn't reached that level, with the powerful bloodline of the creation Qinglian, she was also safe and sound after the 3 heavenly tribulations. The 4th heavenly tribulation didn't have a specific form. It was a bloodline tribulation that directly affected Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo circulated his blood and qi. Rays of green light burst out from his entire body. His blood and qi rose, and his aura skyrocketed. The Qinglian bloodline in his body circulated, and the sound of waves surged. Ever since Su Zimo ascended, he was worried that Qinglian's true body would be exposed, and had not used the Qinglian bloodline at all. Now that the Qinglian bloodline that had been suppressed in his body for a long time was completely released, he felt an unprecedented sense of carefreeness. What bloodline is that? Lin Lei looked at Su Zimo in the center of the valley, and frowned slightly in confusion. Given his knowledge, he could not recognize the origin of Su Zimo's bloodline. After the bloodline tribulation, the 5th heavenly tribulation was the essence spirit tribulation. The essence spirit tribulation was silent and formless. Instead, it descended directly into Su Zimo's consciousness. Normally speaking, the essence spirit tribulation was the most dangerous of the 99 heavenly tribulations. Throughout history, many monster incarnates died to the essence spirit tribulation. However, although the essence spirit tribulation was terrifying, it posed no threat to Su Zimo. His essence spirit was way too strong. After Qinglian's essence spirit fused with the dragon phoenix essence spirit, she cultivated the forbidden secret manual, known as the number 1 Spirit Refinement Manual, the Perfection of Nirvana Sutra. Before her tribulation, her essence spirit realm had already reached the true self realm. Furthermore, Su Zimo had mastered many essence spirit secret skills. Qinglian's essence spirit sat on the lotus platform with many lotus seeds surrounding her. The lotus platform beneath her spewed out countless green lights. The divinity nascent soul tribulation came and ended quietly. After the essence spirit tribulation, the sixth heavenly tribulation was the Tao heart tribulation. This was a test of a cultivator's Tao heart. Be it Qinglian's true body or Wu Dao's true body, their Tao hearts were the same and were at the same level. The true martial heavenly tribulation back then could not shake the Tao heart of Wu Dao's true body. Naturally, the Tao heart tribulation today could not threaten Qinglian's true body either. The seventh heavenly tribulation was the karma tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the skies surged and sparks fell, landing on Su Zimo's body and igniting instantly. The flames burned rapidly from the inside out. The karmic fire burned karma. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged. As he endured the pain, he sensed the Tao techniques contained within the karmic fire in his body to raise the red lotus karmic fire that he cultivated. End of chapter. Chapter 2678. Under the burning of the red lotus karmic fire, Su Zimo was almost turned into a gigantic flaming man. His entire body was burned red, and even his bones were almost transparent. However, a massive life force surged from his body continuously to fight against the red lotus karmic fire. Su Zimo controlled 5 powerful flames. While enduring the baptism of the red lotus karmic fire, and enduring immense pain, he could also comprehend the Tao of fire. The red lotus karmic fire lasted for an extremely long time. However, the life force in Su Zimo's body was never extinguished. There was a fiery red fan in front of him. It was the Seven Tails Phoenix Feather Fan. Under the tempering of the red lotus karmic fire, the Seven Tails Phoenix Feather Fan was also transforming. Initially, the fan only had 7 fan ribs. But now, the 8th and even 9th fan ribs were gradually condensed. Roar! As time passed by, an earth-shattering roar sounded from the fan. The Seven Tails Phoenix Feather Fan landed in Su Zimo's hands, and the spirit of the divine phoenix within had already awakened. However, that roar was not the voice of the divine phoenix. Su Zimo injected the power of his essence spirit into the fan, and fanned gently. Swoosh! Immediately after, a terrifying demon beast burrowed out of the fan. It was bathed in flames, and looked like a dragon or a phoenix. Its dragon horns were towering, and its claws were sharp. There was even a pair of wings on its back. A taboo dragon phoenix, Lin Zhan said sternly. Immortal King Ling Long nodded. His fan has already transformed into a pure yang spirit treasure of the 9th tribulation. After the taboo dragon phoenix appeared, it guarded Su Zimo's side and circled him continuously, devouring the red lotus karmic fire in large mouthfuls to help Su Zimo resist the karmic tribulation. The pressure on Su Zimo decreased drastically. His flesh and bones were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, the 7th tribulation ended. The 8th tribulation descended. The weapon tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the sky churned, and the power of the heavenly tribulation condensed continuously. It even transformed into all sorts of weapons and dharma treasures that descended from the sky like rain. They were not real dharma treasures, but they were even more terrifying than real dharma treasures. Every divine weapon and dharma treasure contained the pure and condensed power of the 8th heavenly tribulation, which was terrifying. The power of each divine weapon was equivalent to a 9 tribulation pure yang dharma treasure. Now the soldiers were like rain, and their momentum was terrifying. They were charging towards Su Zimo, who was in the valley. Such a terrifying scene made people tremble in fear. There were ancient bells, heavy cauldrons, sharp blades, and long arrows that pierced through the air. There were also many unorthodox weapons, such as horsetail whisks, needle-ons, ancient mirrors, round beads, jade butterflies. As far as the eye could see, a murderous aura filled the sky, and a cold light shone. "This is too scary." Lin Luo was speechless and exclaimed softly. Even the proud and arrogant Lin Lei had this thought flash through his mind. How could such a heavenly tribulation be withstood by human strength? Right at this moment, Su Zimo suddenly let out a long howl, and unleashed the supreme divine ability 3 heads 6 arms. Instead of retreating, he advanced and leaped into the air. Several weapons suddenly appeared in his hands. An emerald green horsetail whisk danced with 3,000 strands of hair. There was also an exquisite jade scepter with an auspicious cloud shape at the tip and 3 pearls embedded in it. There were also 9 dragons spiraling around the handle. There was also a handful of seemingly ordinary yellow soil in one of his hands. The 4th hand held the 9-tailed dragon phoenix fan. The 2 hands that were free were conjured with different immortal dermic seals. Prior to this, Su Zimo did not summon the Tai Horsetail Whisk, Sanyu Jade Scepter and 9 Heavens Breath Soil, mainly because there was no need. Those 3 divine weapons were a part of his body to begin with. At the same time as he tempered Qinglian's true body, the 3 divine weapons would be tempered as well. But now, against the weapon tribulation, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless, and summoned the 3 divine weapons, and the 9-tailed dragon phoenix fan, that had just transformed into a 9 tribulation numinous treasure. Not only that, Su Zimo changed hand seals repeatedly, and communicated with the ancient stars, to release the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram. Behind the tribulation clouds in the sky, a large number of stars appeared vaguely, and scattered down endless starlight, that surged into Su Zimo's body. With the power of billions of stars, Su Zimo released his 3 heads and 6 arms, and charged into the weapon tribulation, with the 4 divine weapons in his hands. Clang, 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 bang, bang, bang. The sound of divine weapons clashing could be heard in midair, and sparks flew everywhere. The killing power of the weapon tribulation came from all directions. With the help of his 3 heads and 6 arms, and a defensive dermic treasure like the 9 Heavens Breath Soil, Su Zimo could almost defend himself completely. Even if he was hit by some divine weapons, he could withstand it with his current Qinglian's true body, that was infinitely close to grade 12. The weapons were endless, and Su Zimo relied on his powerful blood qi to fight against them. Su Zimo was like a tireless god of war, as he rampaged through the sea of weapons, and smashed the countless divine weapons and dermic treasures of the heavenly tribulations into nothingness. He's too strong. Even Lin Lei could not help but exclaim at this moment. If he was in Su Zimo's shoes, he would not have lasted more than 3 breaths. After an unknown period of time, the divine weapons and dermic treasures in the sky gradually thinned out, and were struck down by Su Zimo one by one before finally dissipating. The 8th tribulation had ended. Su Zimo stood in the air, and took deep breaths to recover his vitality. When the 4 people at the edge of the valley saw that Su Zimo had successfully passed the 8th tribulation, they became nervous instead of relaxed. That was because the weapon tribulation had ended, and there was only 1 tribulation left. The 99 heavenly tribulations, the ultimate heavenly tribulations. No matter what kind of genius one was, one could die in the last 99 heavenly tribulations. Of course, if one could survive it, it would be an unimaginable great opportunity for the person undergoing the tribulation. That was because the 99 heavenly tribulations were also known as the tribulation of divine powers. Generally speaking, the last 99 heavenly tribulations would send down a supreme divine power. Although the 4 people watching at the side also had the opportunity to cultivate this supreme divine power, they were just spectators. They were far from being the ones experiencing this supreme divine power. They had a deep impression of the person undergoing the tribulation. Mother. Lin Luo looked worried and said softly, "It seems like he has used up most of his trump cards. I don't know if he can survive." Immortal King Ling Long remained silent. Su Zimo was indeed in good condition. After receiving the impact of this heavenly tribulation, not only did he not suffer any losses, but his aura was even stronger than when he had just undergone the tribulation. However, the last 99 heavenly tribulations was no small matter. It was far from what the weapon tribulation could compare to. Without extraordinary means, it was impossible to survive it. Even Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long were not confident. Although they had been crowned kings in the Grotto Heaven for a long time, this was the first time they had witnessed the legendary 99 heavenly tribulations. The 2 of them were also not sure what kind of power the last 99 heavenly tribulations would have. Lin Zhan said softly, "There are only a few supreme divine powers in the upper world. If he is lucky and encounters a supreme divine power with relatively weaker killing power, He should be able to pass it smoothly. Chapter 2679. In fact, there were no weak mystical powers that could be considered supreme. It was just that some supreme mystical powers focused on different aspects. Lin Zhan meant that if a supreme mystical power, like space-time imprisonment, descended, it would be less of a threat to Su Zimo. If it descended, Su Zimo would most likely be doomed by the legendary 6 paths of reincarnation. Although the 4 of them stood at the edge of the valley and watched, they were still nervous. After the 8th tribulation disappeared, the last 99 heavenly tribulations did not descend. It seemed to be giving Su Zimo enough time to rest. Finally, the tribulation clouds in the sky churned, forming a huge vortex that emitted a majestic and heavy pressure. In the center of the vortex, it was as if a terrifying creature was awakening. Its aura became stronger and stronger. In the center of the vortex, light and darkness intersected. It was as if a single eye was staring at Su Zimo in the middle of the valley. What kind of supreme mystical power is this? Lin Lei couldn't help but ask. Immortal King Ling Long shook her head slightly. She carefully recalled for a while and said in confusion, "I'm not sure. The signs and aura of this supreme mystical power are different from the supreme mystical powers that I know." Finally, a tall figure gradually appeared in the tribulation clouds. Its entire body was bathed in lightning, and its muscles were firm. It was as if pieces of hard rocks were embedded in its body. This creature was nearly 100 feet tall. It had no facial features and no appearance could be seen. This was a creature condensed from the power of the 99 heavenly tribulations. What's going on? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Wu Dao's original body had once attracted the unprecedented 10th tribulation. Only the 10th tribulation would have such a terrifying creature appear. Now it was only the last of the 99 heavenly tribulations. What was going on with such a terrifying creature? Su Zimo faced this tall god in midair. He was as small as an ant. Lin Zhan frowned and said in a low voice, "I've never seen such a supreme mystical power before. The power in this creature's body is so powerful." This creature lowered its head slightly. Its featureless face faced Su Zimo, as if it was looking at this tiny human in front of it. Suddenly, the giant creature extended a finger and pointed it at Su Zimo's head. A large shadow appeared, and Su Zimo's vision darkened. It was only a finger, but it was already emitting an incomparably savage and violent aura, as if it was going to crush him into meat paste. Su Zimo's expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with fighting spirit again. So what if it was 100 feet tall creature? He had even killed creatures that were 1,000 feet tall and 10,000 feet long. What's more, this giant creature was only formed by the last of the 99 heavenly tribulations. It wasn't a real creature at all. Su Zimo gathered the power in his body and leaped into the air. He waved the Tai Horsetail whisk and the Sanyu Rui scepter and struck toward the tall creature's finger. Bang! A loud noise came from midair, and the finger stopped. Soon after, the giant creature felt pain. Its arm trembled slightly, and it suddenly retracted. Roar! A series of deep roars came from the giant creature's body. It was as if Su Zimo's counterattack had infuriated it. The giant creature's hands suddenly began to form a series of strange hand seals, and its fingers intertwined and changed continuously. Immortal King Ling Long's eyes lit up. She hurriedly said, "Observe this hand seal carefully." Lin Lei and Lin Luo immediately focused their gazes. After the series of hand seals, the aura of the giant creature skyrocketed. 2 brand new heads suddenly grew on its neck, and together with them 4 new arms grew. Seeing this, Lin Lei was stunned. He murmured, "Isn't this just 3 heads and 6 arms? It's just a peerless divine ability. It's nothing, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, another head popped up beside the 3 heads of the tall deity. At the same time, 2 more arms grew out of the 6 arms. This is, Lin Lei's heart trembled. 4 heads and 8 arms. Immortal King Ling Long exclaimed. Lin Zhan's eyes flickered with confusion. He glanced sideways and asked, "I've only heard that the legendary Shura tribe has the innate divine ability of 3 heads and 8 arms when they reach the martial monarch realm. What's with 4 heads and 8 arms?" Even with Lin Zhan's knowledge, he had never heard of 4 heads and 8 arms. Immortal King Ling Long explained, "When I was receiving the inheritance of the 9 heavens mystic empress, I saw some ancient drawings in the ruins. There were drawings of creatures with 4 heads and 8 arms on them. This peerless divine ability has been lost for many years. I didn't expect it to be passed down again in this generation, and to fall into Zimo's hands." Lin Lei's eyes flickered with disappointment. He was originally looking forward to learning the peerless divine abilities like the immortal slaying sword, the 6 paths of reincarnation, and the eternal darkness. As for having 4 heads and 8 arms, it didn't seem to be much to him. Lin Lei mumbled, "It's just an additional head and 2 arms compared to 3 heads and 6 arms. His battle prowess won't increase by much." Immortal King Ling Long shook her head and said, "4 heads and 8 arms is not as simple as having an additional head and 2 arms." Back at the Divine Firmament Immortal Gathering, Su Zimo was able to obtain an absolute advantage and suppress Yun Ting because of his 3 heads and 6 arms. If he had an additional head and 2 arms, Su Zimo's battle prowess would skyrocket. Immortal King Ling Long pondered and said, "This peerless divine ability has been lost for many years. There must be a deeper meaning for it to suddenly appear on Zimo in this generation. It's just that I can't explain it at the moment." Immortal King Ling Long did not explain, and continued to watch. In midair, Su Zimo was stunned when he saw the tall creature with 4 heads and 8 arms. Among the 8 arms of this tall creature, 2 of them were holding the sun and moon formed by the heavenly tribulation. One of them was holding a bell, one of them was holding a golden seal, one of them was holding a bow, and the other was holding a halberd. The 2 hands that were free were holding immortal art dermic seals. The tall creature waved its 8 arms and charged toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo was completely fearless as he waved his 3 heads and 6 arms. The 9 heavens living soil, primordial unity horsetail whisk, trijade rui scepter, and 9-tailed dragon phoenix fan fought against the tall creature. In melee combat, no one could block the killing power of Qinglian's true body. Even Yun Ting would be suppressed by his 3 heads and 6 arms state. Clang, 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 boom, boom, boom. The 2 of them erupted into a huge battle. Divine weapons and Dharma treasures collided continuously as they fought in melee combat, causing strong winds to howl and sand to fly everywhere. Even heaven and earth were trembling. The moment they exchanged blows, Su Zimo realized that something was amiss. The strength of this tall creature was not weaker than his at all. In fact, it was even stronger than him. Furthermore, the tall creature displayed extremely brilliant melee combat techniques. Against Su Zimo's attacks, it was able to counterattack with ease. In fact, this tall creature was formed from the 99 heavenly tribulations. Throughout history, countless paragons and monster incarnates had fought against the 99 heavenly tribulations. The melee combat techniques of those paragons and monster incarnates had already been absorbed by the heavenly tribulations. Right now, they were all augmented by the tall creature. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.